Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk.
97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Welcome into Unfiltered, everybody, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson, New Jersey, as we get you ready for the NFL Draft kicking off tonight. But we're not only talking football today, because the hockey team in this city comes out to a 3-0 lead over the hated Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's hear it for the Fly Guys. You know what, Sil? We got to get to it early. Hit the horn, Sil. That's right. We are over at the Jug Handle Inn. Come on over. We'll be here from 2 to 6 p.m. You got me. We got our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, for the entire show. AD, what's going on, brother?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Great to be with you. The Flyers have the city on fire right now. And the NFL Draft. Man, there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah, it feels like Christmas. I know you love the NFL Draft. But thank God we have the Philadelphia Flyers, because they are distracting us from the terrible baseball team that's been losing game after game after game. But at least they released Taijuan Walker today, only 2 years too late. But we're going to have a lot in store for you today. ESPN's Tim McManus will be joining us for the last 2 hours of the show from 4 to 6. Andrew Salciunas from our morning show, he'll be joining us at 3 o'clock. And maybe some special guests along the way. And we have a lot of prizes here, so make sure you're getting your names in the hat. We have a Super Bowl 59 football. We got a signed stick from Travis Sanheim, a signed puck from Travis Konechny, and we're going to be giving away $300 to Rally House. I'll tell you about that a little bit later on in the show. But let's start it off with the Flyers, who win a big one last night, 5-2. The building was electric. 8 years since there was a playoff game down in South Philadelphia. And I was a little nervous going in, Andrew. I'll be honest with you. I was a little nervous going in. Pittsburgh gets that first goal early, and I'm thinking, all right, maybe things are going to start to spiral. But here was the turning point in the game. They decided to go after Travis Konechny. This is what it sounded like on 97.5 The Fanatic last night.
Gives it to DeBourk, stuffs it in front. Here's Cam York with the drive, the rebound, Konechny, and Konechny can't beat Skinner. He was tied up, tackled to the ice behind the goal, and we'll see if we got penalties here again, as Konechny was mauled there behind the net by Ryan Shea.
So that was Travis Konechny getting mauled by Rust. The building's going nuts. Travis Konechny, when he finally gets up, says, all right, you want to go? Let's go. And Russ decides he doesn't want to fight. The building got even more louder, the loudest I've ever heard that building. But that was the turning point, because after that, it seemed like all the momentum shifted from the Penguins over to the Flyers. How electric was it, though, AD?
Yeah, it was great. You mentioned Travis Konechny, and he was ready to go. I think that really ignited the team there. Dan Vladar, really gutsy performance by him. He was clearly, working through some things, lost his skate on one occasion, but I think I was most impressed with Trevor Zegras, Bill, because he was all over the ice. He had a bounce-back performance, and I thought he was sort of the fire starter that they needed to keep everything going.
Yeah, and then right after that scrum, the Penguins end up getting the extra penalty. There's 5 guys in the box for the Penguins, 4 for the Flyers. The Flyers go on a 4-on-3. And you mentioned Trevor Zegras. He gets his first career playoff goal. Here's what it sounded like.
Middle point, Drysdale shot deflected right on the loose puck and dish right back into him by Porter Martone. Martone will feed to Drysdale. Zegras with a one-timer. He scores! The power play goal by Trevor Zegras. Now you want to see a building go wild. The Flyers have tied the game.
And there it was, ties it up 1-1. They never look back. They score 3 goals on the next 4 shots to go up 3-1. Things got a little bit tight in the third period after a bad Matvei Michkov penalty made it a 3-2 game. But then Noah Cates on the power play extends the lead to 2, and now they have a commanding 3-0 lead. But my favorite part of the game, the goals were great, the crowd was great, but my favorite part was watching the crybaby, Sidney Crosby, who I respect as a hockey player. He's one of the best to ever do it, but man, does he have a hate the face. I don't think I have more sports hate for any player than I do for Sidney Crosby, and he goes down whining like he just took a stick to the teeth, and then when you see the replay, it barely grazes his shield, and he gets called for the embellishment. that was the highlight of the game for me, watching him sit in the penalty box like a little kid put in the corner. It was beautiful.
Now, somebody did say that you resemble Sidney Crosby. Is that correct?
I do. I say he has a hate to face, and people tell me I look like him, which bothers me.
Yeah, I mean, what does that say about you then? No, I'm just kidding. But you know what, man? I think for me, the turning point, what really ignited everything was Trevor Zegras responding after after Pittsburgh gets out to that 1-0 lead, and the Flyers didn't look back. What really has sort of grabbed me this series, Bill, is that the confidence and poise that such a young team has. You don't often see that, especially when going into the series, a lot was made about the Penguins and what they were going to do, and the Flyers are unproven. Well, they've responded to every challenge so far that's been thrown at them.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And when they went down 1-0 in that first period, a young team in your own building, it could have spiraled the other way. It could have been a scenario where, man, you came in with such emotion, the Penguins come out to an early lead. How's a young team going to respond against a veteran group like the Penguins who have a ton of playoff experience? And it was that scrum with Travis Konechny that really changed the momentum, and then they answered. What I love, too, the Flyers had the worst power play in the NHL in the regular season, 32nd out of 32 teams. And it's been like that pretty much over the last 4 years. They're in the bottom of the league. They go 2 for 3 last night on the power play. If you want to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to take advantage of your power play opportunities when the opponents give you those opportunities. And the Flyers did that last night, going 2 of 3. Now, Rick Tocchet, head coach, we can't say enough about him, the job he's done with this group, how close they are, how tight-knit they are. They have no problem laying it out on the line to block shots. They do a great job being sound defensively. They clog up the neutral zone. They keep everything to the perimeter, even in their own zone, so Vladar can see all his shots. He's played a lot of playoff games in that building. And last night after the game, they asked Rick Tocchet, did you get any nostalgia hearing that crowd for the first time in 8 years in a playoff atmosphere? Here was the head coach, Rick Tocchet.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You know, I can consider a bunch of beers and tell you some stories of back in the day. But, it's you know, for me, like, I've lived it and I've seen it. And for me, it's to see the young guys and in Coots and those guys, TK, seeing that crowd. It's been a while. So I'm really happy for those guys. Listen, we got a long way to go. I mean, the hardest one is to win the next one. So I don't want to get too nostalgic with the crowd. The crowd was great, don't get me wrong, but I'm happy for the guys. But, you know, like I said, back to business tomorrow.
So there he was, head coach Rick Tocchet. He says we got a long way to go. I don't think it's crazy or irrational to think that this Flyers team has the potential to go on a run, Andrew, because if you look at this team now, since the Olympic break, when they got back, they have been one of the best teams in the entire National Hockey League. And then they added 2 top 6 forwards in Porter Martone and Tyson Forster, who came back from being injured. And you moved Trevor Zegras over to be that top-line center. Now you got 2 really strong lines in your top 6. And I'll tell you what, that checking line of Couturier, Glendening, and Hathaway has really done a nice job of shutting down the opponents offensively. But you saw last night their aggressiveness. Hathaway on the forecheck.
I like his chippiness, man.
It results in a goal. That was the Nick Seeler goal. So I love what this team is bringing right now. And you didn't hear me mention Matvei Michkov. Everybody was obsessed with Matvei Michkov all season. He played under 10 minutes last night, takes that stupid penalty.
They had to sit him down, man.
And he's on that third line, which really, Michkov, I'm not writing him off for the future. He's hopefully still going to be a star. But right now, they're running pretty much 9 forwards with the top 2 lines and then that fourth line, that checking line. I think we should get carried away. This team can make a run. They're going to sweep the Penguins on Saturday. The Penguins look like a defeated team. And then anything can happen when you got a hot goaltender and a team that is hitting their stride at the right time.
Yeah, that's well said, and I don't think it is getting carried away because the product that you're seeing on the ice is a team that looks like they're built to sustain this momentum. And what once began as a feel-good story, get them some experience, well, they're now able to build off of this, and they look like the superior team. They have the Penguins on, reeling. They're on their heels, and I think that they'll be able to use this as a springboard moving forward. Not only do they have a really good collection of dynamic young talent, Bill, but they have the right amount of veterans that have that leadership and have experienced it before, and Rick Tocchet's doing a phenomenal job keeping everything, heading in the right direction.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I mean, listen, this is a football town first and foremost. I see the Eagles green everywhere already in the Jug Handle Inn over here in Cinnaminson, where we'll be broadcasting until 6 o'clock. But when the Flyers are good and the Flyers are competitive, make no mistake, this is one of the best hockey towns in the country. Hell, I'll even throw in Canada. I know they got some teams up there. They love their teams. They're obsessed with their teams. But Flyers fans are some of the best in the National Hockey League, and it was on full display last night. And what was crazy is I didn't realize that was Gritty's first playoff game. That's how long it has been since the Flyers had a playoff game in that building. Gritty wasn't even around the last time they had a playoff game.
Wow.
Did you see the way he started the game? He threw a penguin off the second level at Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Yeah. I did see that. Man, that just got the party started, and the Flyers were able to take it from there. But I can't wait to see where this postseason run leads them, Bill, because there's something to be said about momentum and building off that. And right now, you start to put together those kind of games, those kind of performances, and it galvanizes a team. And now you're playing with more confidence. You're playing with sort of an unflinching resolve that I think is really going to serve them well headed forward.
Absolutely, man. There's no substitute for experience in the playoffs, and this team is getting it. But look, we're going to do a lot of NFL draft coverage. I promise you that. We're going to be breaking down everything leading into the draft. But I wanted to start with the Flyers. I want to hear from Flyers fans. There's 3 ways to get involved with the show. Actually, 4 today, because you could get in your car and come right over to the Jug Handle in Cinnaminson and put your name in the bucket for a Travis Sanheim signed stick or a Travis Konechny signed puck. We also have a football from Super Bowl 59, one of only 5,000 out there. So make sure you get over here. But I want to hear from Flyers fans, especially if you were at the game. Get your voice memos in. Get your text into the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. You can even pick up the phone and call. I want the energy for the Philadelphia Flyers. Silvana is back at the studio, so
yes,
she's going to be monitoring all these texts and all these voice memos. Are Flyers fans already weighing in?
Of course they are. We already have a voice memo. Can't wait to see what this one is. We already have people saying, man, I didn't wish I have to work today so I could be at the Jug Handle Inn. Also monitoring the YouTube chat. Hello to the YouTube chat as well. They are very active right now as well.
That's right. We are live on YouTube. Now, usually we're live on television. We are not on TV today, which allows us to be streaming live on YouTube. So make sure you get in there. I don't have the comments up in front of me. I'm going to have to do that during the break to make sure I could see all my old YouTube friends from when I was on Middays.
They're in there, trust me.
They're all in there checking in. But, yeah, I want to hear from Flyers fans. In fact, right in front of us, right here at the Jug Handle Inn, I see a Flyers jersey, a Flyers hat. Let's get a little Let's Go Flyers chant going. What do you think? Let's go Flyers! Let's go Flyers! Oh, the city is flyered up. There is nothing better. Like I've said this before on the air, Andrew. I grew up as a huge Flyers fan, like so much so that I would be dropped off at the Coliseum as a kid, and I would wait for the players to show up for practice to get autographs. Like that's how obsessed I was with the Flyers growing up, played hockey my whole life. And I grew up in an era, Eric Lindros era, where this team was competing every single season. I've never seen a Stanley Cup championship, but they were competing every year, and that's what builds lifelong Flyers fans. The younger generation right now, they haven't seen it. It's been too long. What this Flyers group is doing right now is going to create Flyers fans for the next 25, 30, 40 years because of what these kids are seeing.
Yeah, now, see, when I was growing up, I was heavy into the Ken Hitchcock era. You know, Jeremy Roenick, Keith Primo, Mark Recchi, all those guys. And I could even pull out some of those lesser-known players as well. But I think what the cool thing is with this postseason experience is you're seeing all kinds of jerseys from, years past and current. I saw a Robert Esch jersey at a comedy show where I was last Saturday.
Robert Esch.
And it brought back a lot of memories. Him and Jeff Hackett and Antero Nitamaki. Yeah, I mean, that's the Flyers that I really came through with when I was growing up.
Now, you mentioned goalies, and that has always been kind of the thorn in the Flyers' side, is they've never had that true number one goaltender, and they go out this offseason. We say in Howie we trust, and we're going to talk a lot about Howie Roseman as we lead up to the draft today. I think we're going to have to start saying in Danny we trust, because what Danny Briere has done in only about 2 years at the helm of this Flyers team, bringing in Dan Vladar this offseason. Last year, your goaltending was terrible. Terrible. Ersan, he's a solid backup. He is not a starting goalie. You tried to make him a number one last year. Fedotov was a mess. Kolosov was a mess. You go out and you get Vladar, who now is given an opportunity to start, and you're seeing how good he can be, not only on the ice, but as a leader on that team. You mentioned Trevor Zegras earlier. What a move that was, getting Trevor Zegras in here. Everything that they have done, getting Porter Martone in the draft last year, and then getting him to sign his entry-level contract with only a few games left in the season. Look what this kid has done. He got another point last night. That's 13 points in only 12 games, and he's 19. He shouldn't be able to do this stuff.
Yeah, he's playing like he's been there all season, and I think that speaks to the poise that I was referencing earlier. They're not shaken by the moment, and when you have that kind of resolve, that can take you far. You mentioned Dan Vladar, Bill. How long have we seen inadequate play or inconsistencies from Flyers goaltenders over the years? And he's provided that stability, tough as nails, and you can see the respect that he commands from his teammates going over to him, during the game, after the game, and I think that really speaks to his leadership and how much they respect him.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Rick Tocchet on the show earlier this week, and he was talking about how with that level of respect, the guys are willing to lay their body on the line. That's why they're getting so many block shots. That's why they're doing everything they can, because of how much they respect Dan Vladar as a leader on the back end, and they do trust him, knowing, hey, if we don't play 100%, or if we do make a mistake, we know he's going to get our backs because he's going to make the save. So it's just a very fun team to watch right now. Hopefully they close it down on Saturday night for the sweep. But here's what we got coming up. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and get into the NFL draft in the next segment. But before we do that, I was talking about how my favorite part of last night was watching Sidney Crosby, after he takes that dive, getting called for the embellishment penalty, being put in the penalty box like a little kid put in the corner. Well, after the game last night, the Penguins, does it surprise you they whined a little bit? So their head coach, Dan Muse, crybaby Sid, they were whining postgame. I want to play for you what Dan Muse, the head coach of the Penguins, had to say, what Sid the Kid had to say. We'll react, and then we'll switch over to a little draft talk, because coming up, we're going to get Andrew DiCecco, our Birds insider. If you've never heard Andrew DiCecco on the draft, I'm telling you, he is the best mind out there on the NFL draft. I was telling the bartender earlier, last year, he predicted Drew Makuba in the second round to the Eagles. 2 years ago, he was on our show talking about Jalix Hunt. No one knew who Jalix Hunt was, and then all of a sudden the Eagles call his name in the third round out of Houston Christian. Andrew DiCecco, best mind on the draft. We'll get his biggest position needs coming up a little bit later. But coming up next, live from the Jug Handle Inn, we'll hear what the whiners up in Pittsburgh had to say, the coach and Sid the Kid. Keep it here, Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic, YouTube, and live at the Jug Handle. We'll be right back.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Savannah Kelleher with this Fanatic Sports Update. The NFL Draft kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. The Eagles have 8 picks, starting with the 23rd overall pick. Our Birds insider Andrew DiCecco is with us the entire show, talking everything about the draft. ESPN's Tim McManus joins us from 4 to 6. Keep it here all day and night long for our draft coverage on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers go up 3-0 over the Penguins with their win last night. They can go for the sweep Saturday with Game 4 at Xfinity Mobile Arena. And the 76ers host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Boston Celtics tomorrow. The series is tied 1-1. And the Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MADD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MADD-HELP or visit MADD.org. I'm Savannah Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Ricky Bo and Bill Colarulo on 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
That's right. Welcome back into Unfiltered, live from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson. Make your way over here. Best wings I ever had. This place is already jumping. We'll be here until 6 o'clock. We got a bunch of giveaways as well. A Super Bowl 59 commemorative football, one of only 5,000. We got a signed Travis Konechny puck, a signed Travis Sanheim stick, and we're giving away three $100 gift cards to Rally House. A lot of people can get their orange and black because hopefully this is going to be a long playoff run. So to start the show, it's me and Andrew DiCecco. We'll be here all 4 hours of the show. A little bit later, Andrew Salciunas from the morning show will be joining us. And at 4 o'clock, Tim McManus of ESPN will be joining for the remainder of the show. Now, a lot of Eagles fans, you remember the name Tim McManus. On April 1st, that big article from ESPN dropped about the Eagles' offensive struggles and what Jaylen Herz, what part he played in it. So we'll have Tim McManus on here to really explain his report and break everything down as we get ready for draft night tonight. First round, Eagles pick 23rd overall. But before we switch over and talk some NFL draft, I want to keep it with the Flyers. I asked for Flyers fans to weigh in. Silvana said a lot of people have been hitting us up on the Davis Honda text line. You can as well. Send your voice memos in for We Hear You. Send your text 610-632-0975. Before we hear what the Penguins whiners had to say last night after the game, head coach Dan Muse and Sidney Crosby, let's get a couple texts in here, Silvana. What are the Flyers fans saying on the text board?
All right, Charlie says, for the first time in my kids' lives, the Flyers were exciting. They were up and yelling with me through the second period last night, and it was just awesome. I've missed playoff hockey so much, and this time I get to share it with my kids. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I keep saying that this is such a big deal because there are so many young hockey fans or fans who have never been a fan of hockey because they just haven't seen competitive hockey in this city, that when the Flyers are good and they are competitive, which is what we've been used to over the years, it creates lifelong fans and diehard fans. And the Philadelphia Flyers fans are some of the best in the NHL. Now, I want to get to what the Penguins had to say last night, but my buddy at the bar, what was your name again, my man? George, who's over here at the Jug Handle Inn, he came up to me during the break and he said, are you going to address what that idiot Paul Bissonnette said on the national broadcast? And if you were listening to the postgame show last night, me and Johnny Marks, we do postgame every night after the Flyers. Bissonnette, apparently on the national broadcast, Andrew, I was watching the NBC Sports Philadelphia broadcast with our friends over there. Well, apparently on the national broadcast, Biz, as he calls himself, said at the end of the second period that the Flyers were playing scumbag hockey.
I did hear that.
And that the Penguins were being hosed. I don't know what games he's been watching, but the Flyers have outplayed the Penguins in every facet of the game over the first 3 games. Hosed. Scumbag hockey. I don't know what Biz is talking about.
He said that multiple times, by the way. I don't agree with that. He said it 3 times, according to George. So I look at how the Flyers were playing. They were playing gritty. They were playing a physical brand. And the Penguins, it was very evident halfway through the game that they wanted no part of it. So call it what you will. I don't agree with that terminology at all.
I don't agree with it either, but the Penguins coach and Sid the Kid apparently did. So here was Dan Muse after the game last night when he was asked about Sidney Crosby, who clearly was embellishing the high stick from Garnet Hathaway. Here's the coach for the Penguins.
Did you get any kind of explanation on the dust-up between Sid and Hathaway, and as well as the melee in the middle of the second period?
No, they didn't give me much on that. I mean, we don't have a single embellishment all year. Sidney Crosby doesn't have an embellishment in 21 seasons. So, sticks in his face. They take both of them. So, I disagree on that strongly. Not one. Not one for our team. All season. And so, we didn't come into this series to start now. Our guys have done a good job with that. And Sid doesn't embellish. So.
Okay. So, Sidney Crosby might not have an embellishment penalty against him in 21 years, but to say that Sidney Crosby doesn't embellish is the biggest crock I've ever heard. That guy, first of all, when he first came into the league, they had to tell him to calm down a little bit with how much he would complain to the refs for penalties, how much he would overdo it, and that was a clear embellishment call last night. And I love that Hathaway was not letting him get away with it. He was calling him every name under the sun that I cannot say because we are on radio for FCC regulations. But I absolutely loved it. So to hear Muse now acting like that has some reason why they lost because the refs did the right thing, taking them both off, it made it 4-on-4. It wasn't like you gave the Flyers a power play in that situation. The refs made the right call.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's sour grapes, and I mean, it's soft. I don't know any other way to describe it, Bill. But when you look at what he did, the flopping, I mean, when his career is over, there's some good acting classes and theater schools that he could attend if he wants to really hone in on those skills even further. But I mean, I sort of equate it to LeBron James and what LeBron James has done a lot in his career, and it was very evident. They may have never called that on him before, but that was as blatant as it gets, the embellishing.
Yeah, it was. And I think Crosby knew it, but then after the game, Crosby was asked about it. And, of course, not only does he complain about the embellishment call, he complains about the scrum that we talked about earlier in the show that was really the turning point where the Penguins got the extra penalty on Travis Konechny after they jumped him, and the whole team was in the penalty box. Here was Sidney Crosby talking about that whole thing.
Kind of turned into a bit of a circus there. I mean, I'm not sure why they decided to put 5 guys in the box on each side, but yeah, I felt like that kind of changed all the momentum. It took a long time. Obviously we didn't get the kill, so I felt like they fed off of that. It's very clear that they're looking for that. I don't know how Rusty ends up with the extra out of all that. I don't know how I end up with embellishment. Yeah, it's hard to understand, but.
So here they go, whining about the refs, whining about the fact that they got the extra penalty and the embellishment. But the bottom line is the Flyers have been the better team. They're up 3-0, and I think this series ends on Saturday night with a sweep. Get the brooms out! Get the brooms out! But I want to hear from Flyers fans. Get your voice memos in. Let's bring the Flyers energy. We are going to break down the NFL draft, but I do want to hear from Flyers fans as we keep this energy going because we've waited a long time for playoff hockey back in the city. In fact, Andrew, let's go right to the phones before we talk about the draft because our man Art, all the way from Staten Island, wants to talk about the Fly guys. Art, what's going on? You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, listen, first off, let's get the abuse out of the way. I'm a huge Rangers fan. Your Flyers are exciting. They're fun to watch. They remind me a lot of Montreal. Like, first and foremost, I'm a hockey fan. So what I'm seeing in this series is definitely outstanding. But to talk about the game a little bit last night, thank God. Of course, I hate Philly. I hate Pittsburgh. I hate Carolina. But last night, that embellishment call that Crosby finally got called on, oh, my God, I've been waiting 20 years for that call. but I got to say, that scrum, there's no way you guys come at it out with a power play. That's terrible. It's horrible.
Well, I appreciate it, Art. But listen, he's spot on. I think a lot of hockey fans have been waiting 21 years for that call to happen on Sidney Crosby. But Flyers fans, you want your voices heard, get the voice memos in, send them in to the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. If we get enough of them, we'll do what we've been doing all week, where we hear you at 3:45 and then again at 5:25. But as excited as we are about the Philadelphia Flyers, it is a huge night for football fans. Now, I am a huge fan of the NFL draft. Andrew, I know you live, breathe, eat the NFL draft. And the Eagles tonight have the 23rd overall pick. So before we dive deep into what the Eagles could do, what their positions of need are, let's just update, or introduce, I should say, our Twitter poll. Because all we're doing is asking a simple question to the masses. Are you excited for the NFL draft? Because for the first time in a long time, I think this is the least amount of draft talk I have done leading into a draft because of everything else that's been going on. The Flyers, the Sixers, the Phillies. Would they lose 9 straight now? How many?
I think it's 8.
Is it 8? It'll be 9 in a few hours. But they've been losing so many damn games. It feels like everyone's energy has been in those 3. But tonight is a big night for the Eagles. So are you excited for the NFL draft? That's going to be the subject of the Twitter poll. Twitter poll always standing strong, thanks to Dr. Avi Donapel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. What do we got, Silvana?
Are you excited for the NFL draft? Simple yes or no. Early numbers, it is split dead even between 50-50.
Oh, man. Andrew's going to fall out of his chair over here.
Can you believe
Half the people aren't excited about the draft, AD.
Well, hopefully we can change that.
There you go. Hopefully we can change that. I know you're excited about the NFL draft.
Not even a single text on the draft yet.
Not a single text.
Oh, man.
Well, if you have draft questions, get them in. You could do it 3 ways. Send your text, your voice memos, pick up the phone and call 610-632-0975. Now's the time. You have the best mind on the draft in Andrew DiCecco. Tim McManus will be joining us at 4 o'clock. So if you do have any questions about the draft or what the Eagles might do, get them in. But, Andrew, so that people understand, when does your draft coverage start? Like, when do you start preparing for tonight?
I start around Thanksgiving, and that's usually very challenging because I'm a beat writer, so I cover the team, so you're involved with the day-to-day, but I also make time for prospect studying, and a lot of times I try to acquire small school prospects film because it's not as readily available, so you have to do your due diligence there, and then I sort of go from there with the LSU prospects and Alabama and so on because it's easier to access. But, yeah, it begins around Thanksgiving, man.
And you go to a bunch of pro days and you do a bunch
Combine.
Oh, how was Indianapolis this year at the Combine?
It was great. I mean, it's always good to hear from the prospects and then get out there in the evenings and get to experience, and be around those in league circles. So it's always, I think it's out of all the off-season events, it's probably the most beneficial if you're a reporter because of the access that you have and the information.
So let me ask you, before we actually look at the Eagles specifically, how much has NIL changed the NFL draft? Because players are making so much money at the college level now. Why would you leave? If you could stay as a college student, party the way they party, have fun, they're gods at their universities, and they're being paid millions of dollars. Yeah. How much smaller has the draft pool gotten for the NFL draft?
Well, it significantly altered the landscape, Bill. I mean, why would you go into the draft when you're going to be making more money to stay in college than you would be to sign your rookie contract? And it sort of blurred the lines a little bit. I mean, you're going to see a lot of prospects in this class that are 24, 25 years old. Now, that's sort of a residual from the COVID years. That was this is like the final class from 2020 if you're including the red shirt. But it has drastically altered the how prospects approach the whole process.
Yeah, I think it was Howie Roseman who was talking about how some of these guys are actually taking a pay cut when they get drafted.
Yeah.
Because if you're not drafted in the first or second round, yeah, you're making more money than the average Joe, even if you're drafted late, but you're not making as much as you might have been as a superstar at the college level. So that definitely affects it. But here's what I want to do coming up. Eagles pick 23rd. Now, the chance of Howie Roseman actually staying put at 23rd are slim. We know he loves to move up and down the draft board. But what are the Eagles' biggest areas of need as we get ready for the first round of the NFL draft coming up? We'll hear what Andrew DiCecco has to say. We'll also hear some of the things Howie Roseman said about 2 players that are on the team this year that might impact what their needs are going to be. Unfiltered continues from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson, New Jersey, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Your people, your profits, and your payroll are your business's greatest priorities. For payroll you can trust, visit vcshr.com.
All right, welcome back into Unfiltered, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson as we get you ready for the NFL Draft tonight. Obviously, we're reacting to the Philadelphia Flyers' big win last night, going up 3-0 on the series. So Flyers fans, more than welcome to get involved. Send your texts, send your voice memos, pick up the phone and call 610-632-0975. But we are also giving away 3 $100 gift cards to Rally House. So you can pick up your Flyers gear, your Eagles gear. Here's what we're doing right now. If you're out there on the road, now drive safely. The first person to come to the Jug Handle Inn that is not yet in the building, and hits me with a "Where's Ricky Bo?" you will win $100 to Rally House. All right, so head on over to the Jug Handle Inn. All right, drive safely though. But the first one to hit me with a "Where's a Ricky Bo?" you win $100. But if you're already here, remember we're giving away the Super Bowl 59 commemorative football. We got the Travis Sanheim signed stick and the Travis Konechny signed puck. Put your names in the bucket. We'll pick that at the end of the show. But Andrew DiCecco, our Birds insider, the best mind on the NFL draft, is here with us, getting us ready. Eagles pick 23rd tonight if Howie Roseman surprises everybody and just stands put, which I highly doubt is going to happen. But let's talk about the biggest positions of need for this Philadelphia Eagles team. Now, I know, Andrew, you're going to say, don't draft for need, draft best available, but simply the biggest needs for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, first and foremost will be offensive tackle. When you look at Lane Johnson, and he's on the back nine of a storied career, Bill, but the Eagles don't have a contingency plan in place for when he does decide to leave the game. And so I look at this draft class, there are so many tackles. There is a wealth of talent where the Eagles are projected to pick right now that I think would really give them a solid building block for the future at right tackle. So that has to be first and foremost. And when you're an organization like the Eagles that historically values and prioritizes building a team through the trenches, that to me feels like the most notable.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I mean, you look at Howie Roseman over the last few seasons, and they've had great drafts. It's mostly been on the defensive side of the football. And every year it felt like, all right, this is going to be the year they draft Lane Johnson's replacement. And they haven't done it. They haven't taken an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds since 2022 when they drafted Cam Jurgens in the 2nd round. So I do think this has to be the year. Now, back in January, Howie Roseman, when he met with the media, they didn't know whether or not Lane Johnson was going to be coming back. At least the media didn't know yet. And he was being asked a question about, is Lane going to return? And Howie said, he's still an elite player. Listen to Howie Roseman.
I think all those conversations that we have with our players are between us, and anything they're doing, I'm not saying that negatively or positively, but anyone you ask about, I think that that's their business to discuss. Obviously, you're talking about a Hall of Fame player who's been a huge, huge part of any of our success that we've had. And when you watch him play, he's still playing at an elite level.
All right, so that's Howie Roseman talking about Lane Johnson still being an elite player. Now, I don't disagree when he's healthy, but my question to you, Andrew, can you go into this season and rely on Lane Johnson to play 17 games and hopefully more in a postseason run, or do you need a better backup plan?
You need a better backup plan, and I think it should be noted that Fred Johnson has returned he's signed to a 1-year deal, but the Eagles need to be able, with a long-term view, have that position solidified. They've done that year over year, and when I look at this offensive line, and you could make a case and say, well, they're not drafting for this year. You don't draft for this year. The Eagles look at what this player is going to be 2 or 3 years down the road. And I think it would be a little naive to expect that Jordan Mailata and or Lane Johnson are going to be available for the full complement of games. So it's not necessarily a redshirt selection. So there's a lot of value there by taking an offensive lineman.
All right, so then let me ask you this, because the Eagles picked 23rd. Now, usually in the NFL draft, your top offensive tackles are going to go a lot higher in the draft. So do you believe that there will be a player available at 23 that they could take to be Lane Johnson's eventual replacement?
Yeah, if they stand pat at 23, at least in my estimation, Blake Miller from Clemson would be available. He's a polished, solid, if unspectacular type of offensive lineman. But the Eagles don't typically like to play it safe. They look to swing for the home run and try to get that upside-laden player. And I look at Maxi Honachor from Arizona State as a player that would really fit the bill as being, yes, he's a developmental player. He's always started 31 games. He's new to football. But when you look at that athleticism, that movement ability, and that power, you just have to have that confidence that the infrastructure in the building is going to maximize and develop that talent so that they do realize that potential.
Now, when you take a guy like that, that's a developmental piece. If Lane Johnson was to get hurt, you're probably not relying on him to step in and contribute this season, would you?
He can also kick inside and play guard. Blake Miller, I'm not sure if he can kick inside and play guard, but you would ideally like to identify a lineman that gives you that versatility. And that's also where Fred Johnson becomes sort of the fail-safe, where you have him waiting in the wings where he can step in and play left or right tackle, because he's done that the previous 2 seasons, whether it was Jordan Mailata or Lane Johnson. They also have Cameron Williams, who the team likes, and Miles Hinton. Both were day 3 prospects taken last year. So all of a sudden it would become a little bit of a crowded house if they were to add to that room tonight.
Yeah, thank God when you look back last season that Howie Roseman went and got Fred Johnson back in training camp from the Jacksonville Jaguars, or who knows where this team would be. Because you remember in that Rams game early, when Lane Johnson wasn't playing, they put Pryor in there, and he was like a turnstile over there at right tackle. And then Fred Johnson came in, solidified the right tackle position, and they end up winning that game in the second half. But, all right, so that's offensive line. I'm right there with you. Offensive line, important. But there's a lot of reports out there. I know a lot of fans were frustrated with the media that they would not stop talking about the A.J. Brown trade scenarios. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and it seems at this point is just a foregone conclusion that A.J. Brown will get traded. The latest from Adam Schefter last week was a trade with the New England Patriots is, quote, likely. Now, if they do, in fact, trade A.J. Brown, we know they signed Hollywood Brown. They signed Elijah Moore. They still have Devontae Smith, Darius Cooper.
Dontavian Wicks they traded for.
They went and traded for Dontavian Wicks from the Green Bay Packers. Do you believe that they will also draft a wide receiver in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the NFL draft this week?
Well, to be clear, I don't know if the Eagles take A.J. out of the equation. I still don't think that they would have enough, despite trading for Dontavian Wicks and adding the players that you talked about. But it's important to note that Sean Mannion's coming from a background that spread the ball around to a lot of different players. Dontavian Wicks was the 4th receiving option and still had 30 receptions. You add another tight end to this equation, and all of a sudden you have enough players there that maybe that offsets the production lost with A.J. Brown. But to be clear, I still don't think they have enough there. Even with A.J. Brown on the roster, it's still a long-term need, and I would expect them to take a receiver on day 1 or day 2.
And Dontavian Wicks is a guy, like you just mentioned, they traded for from the Green Bay Packers, which is interesting because Sean Mannion came from the Packers. Their new offensive line coach came from the Packers. And last week, Howie Roseman was asked about Dontavian Wicks, and it sounds like he's a player that they've been following for a while. Here was Howie Roseman.
Tay's a player that we've followed. Obviously, we played Green Bay a bunch of times. You see his skill set. I mean, he's a physical, explosive player at the top of routes. He can play inside or out. So he's a guy that we had our eye on here. And then, bringing in some of these Green Bay guys, some of the hardest part of our job, the cohab part, not understanding who the person is. And so when you get a chance to bring in some of these new coaches and then talk about some of the players and the skill set and then know how they are in the building, it makes you feel even more confident when you make the acquisition. And I think when you look at our receiver room over the last couple of years, obviously we lost Jahan. We've probably been fortunate about the depth that we haven't really had to dive into. And just studying the league and seeing how many teams, can go pretty deep in their receiver room, that was one of the priorities going into this offseason, is increasing the depth, the quality of talent in the receiver room throughout the room. So that really fit for us. Really excited to get Tay here and think he's an arrow-up guy.
All right, so that was Roseman on Dontavian Wicks. Now, assuming they do trade A.J. and not knowing if they do draft a wide receiver, who would be the wide receiver 2 on this team right now? Devontae clearly the number 1. Is Dontavian Wicks the number 2? Is it Hollywood Brown? Is it somebody else?
I think it would be Dontavian Wicks. When you look at body type, he offers a different skill set and would complement, ideally, I think, Devontae Smith in that he's a bigger body guy. He can work the short to intermediate levels of the field. Really strong when it comes to attacking the football in the air. Not a burner, but Devontae can work all 3 levels. And that's where I think he can win in those contested catch situations. He needs to clean up the drops, though. He's had a lot of drops. over the past 3 seasons. But other than that, he was a player, Bill, that I really liked coming out of the University of Virginia. I've gone to their pro days over the years, and I thought he had a lot of upside. He ran a 4.62, which is likely why he was available in the 5th round.
All right, good stuff, man. So we'll see if the Eagles do, in fact, go after a wide receiver. Now, a lot of people have been hitting us up on the Davis Honda text line with texts, so I want to get to some of those texts coming up, because one of the questions that has been hit us up on the text board, and I've already gotten some texts from friends about it, does this whole Mike Vrabel situation affect the A.J. Brown trade scenario with the New England Patriots? Because I don't know if you saw, Mike Vrabel will not be at day 3 of the NFL draft because he's going to be going to counseling now, because more pictures are surfacing showing that this relationship with Diana Rossini dates back 6 years. So there's a lot going on in New England. Will that impact the A.J. Brown trade scenario? But coming up next, we'll do that conversation. We'll get to some more of your texts. But it's also easy to forget that there was a point in time where Howie Roseman was not so brilliant at drafting. We'll look at some of his biggest misses and what Howie said last week on what he's learned from those mistakes. And guess what? A $1,000 cash giveaway coming up right after this on Unfiltered Live from the Jug Handle Inn, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Off at 8 o'clock, the Eagles have 8 picks in the draft, starting with the 23rd overall. Our Birds insider Andrew DiCecco is with us the entire show, breaking down every little thing for the draft. ESPN's Tim McManus joins us from 4 to 6. NFL draft coverage is here all day and night long on 97.5 The Fanatic, so keep it here. The Flyers are up 3-0 over the Penguins after last night's win. They can go for the sweep on Saturday at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Joel Embiid participated in some of today's practice. The Sixers host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Celtics tomorrow night. The series is tied 1-1. And the Philadelphia Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MADD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MADD-HELP or visit MADD.org. I'm Slavana Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
You now have 25 minutes after the hour to enter it on the Fanatic app or at 975thefanatic.com. You could also text the keyword to the special contest short code 45911. Again, the keyword is play. One random entry wins $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Winners should get a call from Beasley, so be sure to answer your phone. Contest rules at 975thefanatic.com. Fanatic Parlay Cash stood up by Iron Mountain Men's Health. We do it 5 times a day, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon, and right here on Unfiltered at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. Good luck.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Welcome back in live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson. Earlier, I said the first person who wasn't yet in the building to come in and ask, where's Ricky Bo, would get $100 to Rally House. Well, unfortunately, we got a winner already, so if you're on your way, still come for the wings, but you're not getting the gift card. John Countryman gets the $100 Rally House gift card. But maybe even a bigger prize for everybody was the surprise guest who's now sitting to my left, Ray Dunn, our producer from our midday show. How about that, Ray Dunn? What's going on, brother?
There's beer here and you guys. Why am I surprised? That feels like the biggest lock of the century I'd find my way here.
Yes, it does. And, of course, we're talking NFL draft, so it's a lock that our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, is to my right. So let's dive deep into the draft a little bit, because it's hard sometimes to remember that Howie Roseman used to stink at the draft. Like, do you remember when the phone calls and the texts would be about how Howie Roseman can't draft? Now you look at his last few drafts, and the guy has been absolutely brilliant. But we're not that far removed from Jalen Reagor and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Marcus Smith, Danny Watkins, Andre Dillard, Sidney Jones. I guess you could add Sidney Brown to that list now that they've given up on. But he has changed his formula in how they approach the draft. And last week, Howie Roseman was asked, do you still think about all those misses in the first round? Listen to the general manager.
Yeah, a lot. You know, I think about the first round picks that I've missed on, I don't know, every day, really, if I'm being honest with myself. I think that sometimes when I think about those picks and think about the reasons that I miss on those picks, sometimes I even overcompensate, you know. So if you're bringing me somebody that may look like one of those guys, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, and I'm going to be skeptical. And I'm going to be skeptical in my own report on those guys. I feel like they've also helped me really get better at my job. And I think if it wasn't for those mistakes, I think a lot of the successful picks may not have happened. So, you know, I can't go back and change the past. I'm very comfortable kind of understanding that as much as I'm trying, I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my hardest to be as perfect as I can be.
All right, so that was Roseman on the past mistakes. And just to put it into perspective, from 2010 through 2014, they picked 16 times in the first 3 rounds. Only 8 of those players became long-term starters. Since 2016, when Howie Roseman took things back over after he got put in the broom closet, 27 picks in the first 3 rounds, 22 of them have become long-term starters. So, Andrew, I ask you, what has changed in Howie Roseman's approach to draft night that he's been so successful over the last few seasons?
Well, I think like anything in life, Bill, you learn from past mistakes, and you instead really dial in and dig into your processes with conviction. So you look at someone like an Andre Dillard. He wasn't expected to be available where the Eagles got him. Maybe they didn't do the intel and the proper sourcing on that, and they got a player that didn't really fit the mold. Jaylen Reagor was a player that Howie Roseman became enamored with due to his speed, but you're not factoring in the other intangibles with it. And you can look at Marcus Smith and other players like that. I don't have to read through the track record, but you learn from your past misses, and you see that they're now looking at SEC players and players with pedigree, but also they're going for upside, and it's calculated risks that they're taking. Howie Roseman has never shied away from taking those risks if he believes that there's a chance for a home run. Rather than playing it conventionally or keeping things, you know, close to the vest and playing it safe, I think he's gotten out there on the ledge a little bit and being willing to take a swing because he believes in his process with that conviction.
Yeah, Ray, and one of the crazy thing is, I mean, you may remember when we were doing shows together a couple years ago, I was pushing back that Howie has really struggled drafting defensive players because
I remember.
Yeah, before
4 weeks into that season.
Yes, before
this isn't Sirianni's fault, man. No, it's got to be Howie's fault.
Well, before 2022, all right? You go back and you look at Howie Roseman's draft history on the defensive side of the football. It was miss after miss after miss, and that was a big part why the 2023 Eagles defense, even though Sean Desai was a problem and Matt Patricia was a problem, they didn't have any young players on rookie contracts contributing on the defensive side of the football. And then 2022 hits, and they get Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. And then in 2023, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. 2024, Quinyon, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt. The list goes on. 2025, still yet to be determined what you have in Jahad Campbell, Drew Makuba, and even Ty Robinson. But, I mean, what have you think is the biggest change in Howie Roseman over the last few years?
Yeah, the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I mean, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. There were a lot of times where it seemed like they were trying to be the smartest people in the room. And there's a reason why when they've had some luck with guys falling to them. I mean, Cooper DeJean being a second-round pick, a lot of teams, I think, probably kicked themselves for the fact that they let him get into that second round. Of course, kicked themselves and ended up an Eagle. But for a number of these guys, you go to that SEC pedigree, and it's like, all right, yeah, for a little while there, you got away from it. You thought, hey, yeah, like what DiCecco was just saying when it comes to like Jalen Reagor. Oh, we're enamored with the speed. You know, we see something here. We're going to get this guy. You know, like the real life example or like the normal guy example for us is you always know someone that thinks they've got all the answers in the world when it comes to your fantasy football draft, right? They show up and they're like, oh, no. I got this guy. He's, you know, you're going to draft him in another league in like the 10th round. I'm drafting the 7th round. He's going to have a big season. That guy finishes last because that guy tries to outsmart the system. You don't have to outsmart the system. If you follow the system and you take those calculated risks, the ones where you know where you can, hey, we might be able to get a little bit of an edge here, you're good. But it's when you start trying to be the smartest guy in the room that I think you run into some problems. I think they've simplified it.
Right, and what that success has now spawned into, guys, is Howie Roseman adopting a different approach when it comes to free agency. So you're not seeing the big splashes. You're more so seeing Howie Roseman committed to investing in prospects that are homegrown and trying to keep that infrastructure in place for that sustained success.
Yeah, so let's hope that continues tonight, tomorrow, and this weekend. Eagles pick 23rd tonight. They have a second-round pick. They have 2 third-round picks.
Can you do me a favor?
What's the matter?
Yeah, we got draft coverage of the Fanatic after this at 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's going to be me, Sean Brace, Brendan Gunn's coming at 8 o'clock. You got 6 hours after you're off the air tonight.
You're right. Coverage. So we got a bunch. So just keep it here.
So keep it here. That's what I'm just trying to tell you.
All day, all night. In fact, I think I'm calling in tonight at some point.
Yeah, after I'm off the air. This is a little much of you.
After the Eagles draft. All right, well, look, I know you talked about it on Middays earlier with John and Sean, and people are texting in about this very thing. The Mike Vrabel, Diana Rossini situation. And I know it is tabloid type of stuff, but the reason why it's relevant to Eagles fans, Andrew, is because everyone assumes, based off of the reporting, that A.J. Brown is going to get traded to the New England Patriots. And a big reason why he's going to get traded to the New England Patriots is because of his past experience in Tennessee with head coach Mike Vrabel. Well, now that Rossini has stepped down from The Athletic, it seems like everyone's focus has turned to Mike Vrabel. There's more pictures posted today showing that the relationship goes back at least to 2020. Mike Vrabel is getting counseling on day 3 of the draft and will not be there for the New England Patriots draft picks. So is there a scenario where somehow the A.J. Brown trade is affected by the Mike Vrabel situation? I'll answer it first, though. I don't think so. I think that all of this is probably just good PR. I think Mike Vrabel and the Patriots said, listen, man, no, I'm talking about the counseling. Like, oh, you know what, Mike, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to fire you. We're not going to move on from you. You're going to go and you're going to say you're getting counseling. Maybe we'll release soon that you're some sort of sex addict and you're having issues with your marriage. Remember Tiger Woods had that whole thing?
I mean, that's exactly where my mind went to. Yeah.
Tiger Woods had that whole thing. I don't think Mike Vrabel's losing his job. And if he doesn't lose his job and he still wants AJ, they're going to get him AJ. I mean, does anyone disagree with that?
No, and I understand why this is looked at under a microscope and why there's going to be some skepticism because of this whole situation that transpired. But based on the reporting that I've done and many others have done, it's been very consistent. Nothing has changed because of this. Does it, does this put a stain on it? Of course. but it doesn't change the reporting and the information gathered throughout the process.
Listen, I think he's going to keep his job. There is just like the Philadelphia disaster mode in the back of my head that's like, man, could you imagine? Could you imagine if Vrabel ends up out of a job and the Patriots like, you know what? We don't really need the headache of A.J. Brown. We don't have his coach anymore. You know how crazy we would be if that happened? I don't think it's going to happen that way. But there is a part of me that goes down that way where it's like, yeah, of course. Now, in a way, that Rossini keeps Brown an Eagle, and she kind of helps out on this one on the field. I mean, I know it's chaos behind the scenes, but it's not my job to keep everything together behind the scenes. I just want to watch a good football team. But, yeah, this is nuts.
It's amazing that has become the biggest story of the offseason. But
2020, the night that the world shut down, the night the NBA shut down, they're out in New York City, photographed together. And what's that person been doing with these pictures for the last 6 years? Can I ask that? And why is no one asking that question? The people have been holding on to this picture for 6 years.
And a shoebox.
Yeah. They just scroll through their camera. Oh, yeah, that looks a lot like Diana Rossini and Mike Vrabel. Remember that crazy night, our last night out in New York before the world shut down? Maybe someone would want these. What have you been doing for the last 6 years? You just get out from under your rock? Like, who is this person that sold these pictures? I want names. We could have had this story a long time ago.
It is wild. It is wild, but look, let's hope it doesn't affect anything. As much as I love AJ, I think at this point, the Eagles are going into the draft tonight with the understanding they're trading A.J. Brown to the New England Patriots. And I think that's going to change how they approach the draft. Like we were talking before you got here, Ray, and Andrew is convinced that they're probably going to draft a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds, right? You think they'll go?
First 3.
Chris Bell, right?
Chris Bell. Look, you have a good memory, man.
I pay attention when I work with you.
And/or Ted Hurst.
I know this is just a dumb look, but that's just how my face looks. That's just my constant face.
It's the recall. It's the recall that I'm impressed with, Raymond.
Yeah, Raymond has good recall. He's a smart dude. He had like a 1,500 on his SAT.
And I ended up here, man. I ended up working in radio. I don't know how it happened.
Because you love it, and you love working with me. That's the main reason.
I love radio, that's for sure.
Yeah. But, all right, so here's the thing, though. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of Eagles fans, who think that if Howie does, in fact, trade A.J. Brown, that they're taking a step back this season. And could they be punting on this season? And I don't believe that at all. And you go back to January, right after the season ended, when Howie Roseman met with the media, he wanted to make it clear for fans that they can do what it takes to win now and build for the future at the same time. Listen to Roseman.
Can I clarify one thing? Because I think it's important for our fans to understand. You can do whatever it takes to win now and still build for the future and still have those parallel paths. You know, I just don't want it to get confused that we can't do whatever it takes to build a championship caliber team next year and also continue to have really good players on this team for the future. So, you know, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that.
So, and if you're following the reports, if they do trade A.J., it most likely is for a draft pick in 2027, maybe even 2028. So you are building for the future, but how does that help you now? Where he says, hey, we want to win now, and maybe that's where tonight's draft comes into play. Because there's a player we haven't talked about yet that I absolutely love, and that would be Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. Now, I get it, he's not a wide receiver, but the kid is an absolute weapon. If you add him to this offense, where you already have Dallas Goedert coming back, you have Devontae Smith, we know the wide receivers that they've added. Granted, you don't have A.J. Brown, but if you're able to go 12 personnel and it's no longer Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra, but Dallas Goedert and Kenyon Sadiq, I love the weapons on that offense.
Yeah, and then, like I was saying, maybe that helps offset the loss of A.J. Brown. When you're able to spread the football around, you have a player in this scenario in Kenyon Sadiq who can be moved around formation and be more or less an offensive weapon. But I look at 2 hurdles there with Kenyon Sadiq. 14, the Baltimore Ravens. They just lost Charlie Kohler. They lost Isaiah Likely to the New York Giants. And Mark Andrews is getting up there in age, and he's been banged up a little bit. Then I look at the Carolina Panthers at 19. Looking at what Bryce Young was able to do with that offense, it still looked like they were a piece away from taking it to the next level. And if he's around at 19 and I'm the Eagles and you view him as that difference maker, I think you have to do what it takes to go ahead and get him.
So if he makes it to 16, like, where's the point where Howie Roseman's making that jump? Because I'm right there with you. Like, he gets past the Ravens there at 14, I'm going to start to feel a certain type of way. I was talking to you last week about if they were sitting at 23, Omar Cooper sitting there. You know, I know Logic's going to tell me they want offensive linemen, but Kenyon Sadiq sitting there somewhere in the teens. At what point should I be like, oh, Howie, you got to go make that move. You got to go get him?
Yeah, you got to make sure that the Vikings at 18, with T.J. Hawkinson getting up there in age as well.
So 17 is where we're jumping.
Yeah, 17 with the Detroit Lions, but then again, that could be Caden Proctor territory because he seems to be getting a lot of traction with the Detroit Lions, but they certainly don't need a tight end with Sam Laporta.
You two, what's the chances they stay at 23?
I would say less than 5%. I think Howie's moving up or down.
Okay.
You think he's staying, Andrew, at 23?
No, I think he moves up.
Ooh. Yeah, I think he moves up. And look, we've talked a lot about they need to get Lane Johnson's replacement, and I've been surprised that in the last few drafts they haven't taken an offensive tackle. The tight end position's another one. It seems like every year for the last 3 drafts, all right, this is the year they draft Dallas Goedert's replacement. How many times have you heard when they drafted Dallas Goedert, he's older than they.
I've done a lot of
Zach
weekend
Ertz
shows.
was, right?
Don't you worry, Bill. We've dropped that line a million times.
Yeah, when they drafted Goddard, Zach Ertz was older. When they drafted Ertz, Selleck was older. Yeah, Selleck.
I got hoops on his brain.
I got the Celtics on my mind. Brent Selleck was older. So I do think you got to come out of this draft. Really, in the first 3 rounds, it seems like you got to get a lineman, a tight end, and probably a wide receiver, don't you? I would not be shocked if they go offense very heavy early in this draft because they haven't done it in the last few years.
Well, I went into this whole pre-draft process with the knowledge of, or at least the presumption that the Eagles were going to target offense pretty heavy. When you look at the getting more cost-controlled options on that side of the ball, knowing that you have a lot of expenditures on the defensive side that are looming, and Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean, that pendulum's ultimately going to have to swing. So I think this is going to be a very offensive-dominant draft for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I know a lot of people have been hitting us up on the Davis Honda text line. We want to hear from you. We're asking for Flyers fans to weigh in, bring the energy. We got a bunch of voice memos. We're going to do We Hear You twice today. We got it at 3:45. We'll do it again at 5:25. The best voice messages of the day. Send them in to the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. But also bring your questions for the NFL draft tonight. I know we got a lot of them still on the board that we have to get to because there's no better mind on the NFL draft than our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco. Tim McManus of ESPN will be joining us at 4 o'clock for the final 2 hours of the show. A lot I want to get into with Tim, especially if you remember the article he dropped on April 1st about Jaylen Herz and how much he contributed to the offensive struggles, and Howie Roseman even responded to that article. So a lot to talk to Tim McManus about. But coming up next, we will continue our draft coverage. We'll get into some of the areas they may go. Andrew DiCecco's got a long list of players they might be targeting, so we'll continue that conversation. But we also have to get into, Ray, I don't know if you heard.
Oh, I'm sticking around.
I don't know if you heard Pittsburgh radio this morning. Did you hear Pittsburgh radio on 93.7?
I tried not to. I don't like listening to a lot of losers.
I got to give our morning show credit. They put together a montage of the hosts and the Penguins fans. It's about 2 minutes long of them whining and complaining about the Flyers taking a 3-0 lead. I'm going to play that for you as well. Coming up right after this, Unfiltered continues live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Savannah Kelleher with this Fanatic Sports Update. The NFL Draft kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. The Eagles have 8 picks, starting with the 23rd overall pick. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, is with us the entire show, talking everything draft. ESPN's Tim McManus joins us from 4 to 6. Keep it here all day and night long for our draft coverage on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers go up 3-0 over the Penguins with their win last night. They can go for the sweep Saturday with Game 4 at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Joel Embiid participated in some of today's practice for the Sixers. They host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Celtics tomorrow night. The series is tied 1-1. And the Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by Dairy Queen. A Blizzard treat gets sweeter with a double flip deal. Buy a Blizzard, get another for 99 cents in the DQ app. DQ, happy tastes good. Limited time at participating U.S. locations. I'm Savannah Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Unfiltered, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson, getting you ready for the NFL Draft a few hours away. Your Philadelphia Eagles hold the 23rd pick. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, with us the whole show. We'll have Tim McManus of ESPN joining us. But come on out to the Jug Handle over in Cinnaminson, have some great food, drink some drinks, and put your name in the hat. We got some good prizes. We're giving away a Super Bowl 59 commemorative football, one of only 5,000. We got a Travis Sanheim signed stick, a Travis Konechny signed puck. And shortly, I will tell you what you need to do to win a $100 gift card to Rally House. We've already given one away. We'll be giving another one away shortly. Before we get to some Flyers stuff, because you're going to love, they put together a montage this morning of Pittsburgh morning radio, and you're going to love what the hosts and the callers were saying about the Flyers-Penguins series. But before we do that, a lot of people have been sending in their draft questions on the Davis Honda text line. You can as well, 610-632-0975. Silvana, who's back in the studio. Sil, let's get some draft questions for our man Andrew DiCecco. What do we got?
All right, let's start with Bob from Spotswood, who says, how much does not having Jeff Stoutland coaching the offensive line impact what type of prospects they draft?
I would think considerably, knowing that if you take a project, you have that confidence that Jeff Stoutland's going to maximize that potential. Whereas with Chris Cooper, who's the newly minted offensive line coach, there's less certainty there. So it's fair to wonder whether or not they go with a more polished product versus swinging for upside. But this is going to be a big indicator, Bill, where they go with this offensive lineman. If they go with Maxi Hinachor, or if they go with a Caden Proctor or Blake Miller, who are more polished, that might be an indication as to where they are right now and their belief or confidence in Chris Cooper.
All right, so new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion comes in addition to the new offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland. You have a whole new, not a whole new offensive staff, but a lot of new coaches on that offensive staff. Sean Mannion at the helm as the offensive coordinator. How much different of a run blocking scheme do you expect the Eagles to run in 2026 than we've seen in years past with Nick Sirianni and Jeff Stoutland?
Pretty significant, Bill. They're going to pivot away from that inside zone where linemen are moving forward. Now you're going to be moving laterally with the outside zone, the stretch runs, which is going to command or demand a little bit more from your offensive linemen, where fluidity and being able to get to the second level and do those reach blocks and things like that become all the more paramount. And the linemen that we've discussed all have a varying degree of athletic qualities that I think are really going to lend itself to taking to the new system. So there's going to be a big, drastic difference when it comes to the offense. Everyone's talking about the passing game. I think you're going to see more variance when it comes to run designs.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works. Now, I'm excited to see not only the new run designs and the new offensive line blocking schemes and all that. Saquon Barkley, we all know he had the magical season 2 years ago, and then last year a little bit of a step back for him. But I'm excited to see what they get from Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby was a guy where it seemed like fans, and we were calling for it as well, deserved more touches last year. And for whatever reason, they just were not giving him as many opportunities as I thought he should have gotten, because when he touched the ball last year, good things happened. So do you expect them to have a little bit more of a two-headed monster this coming season with Barkley and Bigsby in the backfield?
Yeah, I do. And you bring up a great point, because even in 2024, there wasn't a lot of rotating when it comes to the running backs. It was all Saquon Barkley. Needless to say, he had a dominant season. But when Tank Bigsby's as effective as he is with minimal touches, it behooves the Eagles to find a way to give him some more touches. And I think with Sean Mannion, you're going to see a little bit more balance there. And let's not forget, Saquon Barkley is also a year older. There's a lot of tread on the tires. And if you're trying to extend that window and that shelf life, if you will, for Saquon Barkley, it would really serve the Eagles well to give their number 2 running back some more volume. And Tank Bigsby's checked off a ton of boxes. I think there's a lot more that we have yet to see.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see for sure. All right, Silvana, before we switch over to the Flyers a little bit and get some Flyers energy going, do we have any more draft questions on the Davis Honda text line for Andrew?
Of course. So we have Chuck from Mount Airy. Andrew, rank your top 5 offensive tackles. And do you agree with me that Stowers had as much upside as Sadiq from Oregon?
I think Stowers does, to answer that question. He's not as refined, and he doesn't block as well. But this is someone who's 3 years removed from being a quarterback. He runs routes with precision, and I interviewed Eli Stowers, actually, and one thing that he mentioned to me was that having that prior background as a quarterback helped him when it comes to running routes with, precision and landmarks and knowing what quarterbacks are looking for. So I don't even think from that aspect there's going to be a significant learning curve. He can also go up there and get the football, good ball skills, and he's not a finished product, nor is Sadiq, but I would imagine that, I believe that Eli Stowers has as much upside. Now, as for ranking my top offensive tackles, I'll stick with ones that have realistic possibilities of being Eagles. I'm not going to go with Maui Noah, the offensive tackle that's going to go in the top 5 most likely, but I'll say we'll go Monroe Freeling, another raw prospect, just started just 18 games at Georgia, but I think his upside is immense. Caden Proctor, Max Ihonachor at 3, Blake Miller at 4, and I guess I'll go Caleb Lomu from Utah. That's 5.
It always blows my mind that Andrew does this with no notes, nothing in front of him, no computer. His computer is his brain, Ray Dunn. Ray Dunn is here. Austin Jones is here. We got a lot of people in the house. Mrs. Colarulo is here with my beautiful little girl, Bianca, watching the broadcast. So come on over to the Jug Handle Inn. Get your questions in for the draft. We'll be doing it up until 6 o'clock before we turn things over to our draft coverage right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Send them into the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. We will continue the draft talk, but let's switch gears a little bit and get the Flyers energy back up. Hit the horn for me, Sil. Hey! In fact, the first person that is not already in the Jug Handle Inn out there that comes through the door and says, Sil, sound the horn, you will win a $100 gift card to Rally House. Now, drive responsibly, but get over here to the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson and tell Silvana to sound the horn. You'll get $100 to Rally House. So get on over here. And this morning, we were all fired up about the Flyers' win last night. The place was electric. The first game in South Philadelphia for a playoff game in 8 years. And they come out to a 5-2 win. Now, I got to give a lot of credit to my man Ricky Bowe, who's not with us today. He predicted 5 goals for the Flyers. He predicted a goal by Trevor Zegras, and then he just threw in there, and I have a feeling Rasmus Ristolainen's going to score a goal as well. He went 3 for 3, and Unfiltered wasn't done yesterday, because then Silvana says, Owen Tippett's going to score a goal, and he gets the empty netter. The only one who was shut out was me, unfortunately, but Unfiltered killed it yesterday with their Flyers predictions.
No big deal.
No big deal, Ricky Bowe. But the best part was this morning I wake up. I'm still flying high after doing Flyers post-game last night with Johnny Marks. We'll do it every game. And I turn on our morning show, and I hear Andrew Salciunas, John Kincade, and Connor Thomas. They put together a montage from 93.7 The Fan out in Pittsburgh. It's about 2 minutes long. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. So listen to the whiners out in Pittsburgh, the hosts and the callers whining about this series. Here we go from 93.7 The Fan.
That right there, Brian Rust taking Garnett Hathaway and bouncing his head off the ice like it was a basketball, to me was the beginning of the end for the Penguins. Brian Rust takes an elbow behind the net up high. It's a dirty, cheap play by Hathaway. And of course it is, because Hathaway's a dirty, cheap, curtain jerker, loser of a player who has 1 goal in 66 games.
Pause it for a second. First of all, he's wrong. It wasn't Hathaway that threw the elbow. It was Travis Konecny. That's number one. And it wasn't Hathaway who got his head pounded on the ice. It was Travis Konecny. So the guy's wrong, number one. He's got no credibility to talk about hockey. But secondly, let's hear from the callers. Keep it going, Sil.
Games. We talked about this yesterday, about the Penguins responding in last night's game. And they clearly didn't. I mean, this is it, right?
They're done.
They're done.
Oh, they're done.
They're done.
This reminds me of the 76 Flyers Penguins. Broad Street Bullies against the Phil Apps Penguins. Bigger, tougher. We got little guys that can't compete. We need to get faster, meaner, bigger, and younger. And I hate to say it, but it's time for the old guys to go.
This series is becoming exhausting to watch. I agree with you. I think the officiating was bad. I agree with Doran, though. I don't think it mattered after a certain point, just because this
No, you can't blame it on the officiating. You got to blame it on them.
Whenever you start reaching and blame it on officiating, then that means that you've lost.
Yeah, I mean, it was over before it started. Except I don't agree with the Crosby call where he gets high stick and they give him.
We will get into that, Jim.
Just to add to Muse's coaching, he did not adjust to the Flyers' play, which kind of dictated from the start. The Pens lost their identity.
Yes.
After that, there's no coming back.
Good morning to you, Steve. How you doing this fairly crappy Thursday?
It's just as crappy as you, gentlemen.
Oh, man, I love listening to Penguins fans crying on their sports talk radio because Penguins fans are the most spoiled fans you could imagine in the NHL. Every single season, the Flyers have struggled and gotten a top pick. Things didn't go their way. We get the number 2 pick and we lose out to Patrick Kane, who scores the game winner against us in 2010 Stanley Cup Finals, right? JVR, not a bad player, but not an elite franchise-changing player. Then you get the number 2 overall pick after that terrible year, and you get Nolan Patrick, who deals with the headaches and all those issues. When the Penguins were bad, here's their top 3 picks 3 years in a row. Marc-Andre Fleury. Then the next year they get Evgeny Malkin, and then the following year they get Sidney Crosby.
Oh, that's all?
That's it. 3 years in a row. And the year after that they get Jordan Stahl. So Penguins fans, it's about time you have something to whine about because you've been absolutely spoiled. But I want to hear from Flyers fans. Silvana said there are a ton of Flyers fans on the voice memos that we'll get to. But Flyers fans, bring the energy. Send your voice memos in. If you were in the building last night, I want to hear what it was like. You could text, voice memo, or pick up the phone and call us, 610-632-0975. Before we get back to our draft coverage with Tim McManus joining the show, coming up next, we will do We Hear You Part 1. We're going to do it twice today, again at 5:25. But coming up next, the best voice messages of the day right here on Unfiltered Live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson on 97.5 The Fanatic. broadcasting live from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson. I just said the first person to come through the door that said sound the horn, Sil, was going to win $100 to Rally House. Well, we got our winner. My little man Frankie came in running up saying sound the horn, Sil. So why don't you go ahead and sound the horn, Sil? As your Philadelphia Flyers take a commanding 3-0 lead on the Pittsburgh Penguins. But we're also getting you ready for the NFL Draft. We got our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, with us for the entire show. Tim McManus of ESPN will be joining us shortly. A lot to get into with him. He does a great job covering the Eagles for ESPN. But we're going to do We Hear You Part 1 coming up this segment. We got a lot of voice memos coming through from Flyers fans, Eagles fans, even some Phillies fans, I'm being told. But before we do, let's just update our Twitter poll. We asked the masses a simple question. Are you excited for the NFL Draft? Now, the early numbers, not that much excitement. It was 50-50 to start the day. Twitter poll stands strong every day thanks to Dr. Avi Donapel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. What's the update, Silvana?
Oh boy, are you excited for the NFL Draft, yes or no? 57% said no, 43% said yes. Shocked.
Well, what are we doing a draft special for then if 57% of people aren't excited about it? You know, I think this is what happens when your team is relatively good and you're picking in the bottom of the draft. Maybe there's not as much excitement, but I always get excited for the draft. I know my man Andrew DiCecco always gets excited for the draft. And joining us now, a little bit late, but he's already got a beer in his hand, our man Andrew Salciunas from the morning show. What's going on, Tunas?
Is it 3 o'clock? Oh, it's 3:45.
Yeah, you're just 45 minutes late. It's all right.
You know what's 45 minutes late? When doctor's appointments say 1:45 and they take you back at 3:15.
Yeah.
What's the point of an appointment?
What always bothered
Story
me,
of my life, man.
It always bothered me. Doctors love them, but at the same time, they have the worst customer service.
Yeah,
they don't care how long they make you wait at doctor's office.
They care about you, but they don't care about your time.
So a lot of people know I was a lawyer before I was a sports talk host.
Are you still active? Do you think I could sue?
No, but if I would make one of my clients wait for more than 5 minutes, they'd lose their mind. But you go to the doctor, you'll wait for an hour and a half and be like, thank you, doctor, thank you.
Yeah, the doctor will take you in 57 minutes. Well, my appointment was an hour ago.
Well, I'm excited for the draft. Yes. To answer your question, I'm excited for the draft, Bill.
Well, we're excited to have you here, my man. So we'll get all your answers on the draft because I want to hear from you about what you think the biggest positions of need are, who you like in the first round tonight and all that. But right now we're going to do We Hear You, which is always brought to you by Rycor Heating and Cooling. Rycor.com or 1-855-MY-RYCOR. Hit it, Silvana.
Now.
I want to know.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Are you listening to me?
We can hear you.
I have something to say. Please just keep it simple and brief.
Thank you.
Listen to me carefully. And that's all I have to say about that.
We hear you.
All right, we'll get started right away.
Hi, Brian from Northeast Philly. After hearing all that crying by the Penguins, I think everybody going to Saturday's game should take a diaper and throw it under the ice.
Oh, I love that idea. Now, clean diaper or dirty diaper? Because I got plenty of dirty diapers. My 15-month-old was just here. She left right before you got here.
I would say clean diaper because they do need something because they will soil themselves on Saturday. So they need something clean to take care of.
But all seriousness, and we talked about it a lot before you got here. I know you talked about it all morning long. How beautiful was it to see Sidney Crosby get called for that embellishment penalty?
It was just theater. It was poetic. And then you have to hear the coach afterward. You know, he's never been called for embellishment in 21 years. That's more shame on the NHL and the referees than anything else. That guy's a whiny little baby and has been for 21 years. And I'm glad that it happened last night.
All right, Tunis is all aggravated from the doctor's office, taking it out on Sidney Crosby. I love it. All right, let's keep him rolling, Sil.
Hey, yo, Bill Colarulo and Unfiltered gang getting all the goals right? Dang. GG's, guys. GG. Nice call. Keep it up. I want to see the same thing for Saturday. Looking to go. Let's go, boys. Let's go, Fly. And Phil, hit the horn.
Hit the horn, Sil. Yeah, for those who missed it, Unfiltered was on fire yesterday. Ricky Bowe predicted 5 goals. He predicted a Trevor Zegras goal, and then he threw in, I think Ristolainen's going to score one, too.
It was a
and then
crazy.
Silvana said, a Tippett's going to score.
It was a crazy night.
We were on fire. We know, this is what we've been trying to tell people, though. We know hockey.
Well, that's why the guy wants you to do it again. Because
Yeah,
he wants to win money this time. He probably didn't make his bets yesterday.
He probably did not. But Andrew DiCecco, Andrew Salciunas gave him the nickname DiCeccodamus when it comes to football and the draft. So someone said Ricky Bo is Ricky Bodamus or something they said, but you can't use that. It's
Rickadamus.
Yeah, but it's already for Andrew, so we got to think of something else for Ricky Bo.
Botox.
Ricky Botox.
He hates that one.
He does hate that one. All right, keep him rolling.
Here's my thing, Bill, with the Vrabel and A.J. Brown thing and Rossini. Here's the thing. The Patriots can step away from this because the NFL could find that there was tampering involved here. This is just my personal view on it. They can investigate this, and maybe they are going to or have started to discreetly, and they're going to hammer the Patriots for this, especially if they go ahead and do this trade after June 1st.
Yeah, that's on the Vrabel Rossini stuff, Andrew. We were talking about this earlier, me and Andrew DiCecco with Ray. Look, Vrabel stepping aside for counseling. He's going to miss day 3 of the draft. I can't imagine, though, that they're going to be able to find that there was tampering involved, because all of these teams are releasing information to reporters, aren't they, Andrew? I mean, you are a reporter.
Right,
I'm sure people have told you things that gets reported. So, I mean, where is the tampering? I guess you could make the argument Diana Rossini kept talking about how unhappy A.J. Brown was. Was that intentional to try to get him to force his way out? I'm not buying all that.
I mean, it was plain as day. He wasn't happy. I don't think that was anything that was breaking. So I'm with you.
What do you think, Chunas?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not tampering in terms of A.J. Brown's trade value. 1 + 1 doesn't necessarily equal 2 in this situation, but it is strange, and the information that was out there is strange. I think it's more of a journalistic integrity thing than a tampering situation. Sure. But this Vrabel not speaking potentially tomorrow or tonight, the Patriots might trade out of their first-round pick. Did you see that?
Oh, and then he doesn't have to address the media?
Because he's not speaking tomorrow. He's not scheduled to. It's just the GM, and then he's not around Saturday. So there is a way where Mike Vrabel completely avoids everything after the latest stories dropped last night and this morning.
Yeah, it's just Elliot Wolf, their GM, talking.
Yeah, because Vrabel did address the media a couple days ago, and essentially, without saying anything, it confirmed what we already believed, and now these new pictures
from 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah, so we'll see. All right, keep them rolling, Sil.
Last night was absolutely gorgeous. To stick it to the Penguins like we did with a 5-2 victory and going up 3-0 with a chance to put the dagger in with a sweep on Saturday, absolutely beautiful. And somebody needs to let Sidney Crosby know that they don't vote for the Best Actor award for the Oscars until December. Let's go Flyers. Ignite the orange.
Hit the horn, Sil! If anyone says, let's go Flyers, it's like a drinking game for us. You have to hit the horn.
Oh, okay. Well, so good thing I have a beer here.
Yeah, we're required to do it. It's actually contractually obligation.
Okay, so I'll keep on sipping. Just keep going, Silvana, and every time you hit it, I'll take a sip.
Every time it's said. But listen, I keep saying this for Flyers fans and people who have been paying attention to the Flyers. This isn't a fluke, man. This has been one of the best teams in hockey since the Olympic break. And then you've added 2 players to your top 6 in Martone and Forster. You slid Trevor Zegras over to center, so now you finally have a top-line center. That allows you now, Dvorak falls to the second-line center, and he's doing really well with Martone and Konechny. And that 4th line has been impressive. I love Couturier, Glendening, and Hathaway on that 4th line. They're shutting down the opponents, but they're also, with their forecheck, you saw them create opportunities last night. Like we were talking about that big goal from Sealer because of Hathaway's forechecking.
Yeah, and the big thing is with Martone and Forster, like they may have still made the playoffs. Let's say Martone doesn't make it up this year, and let's say Forster says, you know what, the injury, I'm not going to make it back in time. I'll hopefully get back come playoff time. They might still make it. But they're not up 3-0 ahead of the Penguins. They hit a stride, and it's good that they came back when they did a couple weeks before the regular season ended because it gave everybody an opportunity to gel a little bit. It gave Rick Tocchet the opportunity to figure out who am I moving. Sean Couturier is on your 4th line now. You know what I mean? So them coming back when they did, they were already playing at a high level, but then they were able to move some pieces around. And you didn't just bring back 3rd or 4th line guys. With all due respect to the 3rd or 4th line guys, you brought in 2 impact players. Martone's getting a point a night at this point.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. It really is unbelievable. If at the trade deadline, Danny Briere would have traded for 2 top 6 forwards, it would have cost a hefty penny.
Yeah.
You didn't have to trade anything, and you got him. I didn't expect Forster to come back, and I certainly didn't expect Martone to sign as quickly as he did. I thought we would have seen him next year. But, man, Not only is this playoffs exciting, the future is bright for the Philadelphia Flyers. And finally, after being told we had to be patient through the Chuck Fletcher era, and before that we had to be patient through the Ron Hextall era, to finally now have a team where you could see the light at the end of the tunnel is very, very exciting. All right, here's what I want. We'll do We Hear You Again at 5:25. Get your voice memos in. We want to hear from Flyers fans. Bring the energy. And if you have predictions on what you think the Eagles are going to do tonight, send your voice memos to the Davis Honda text line 610-632-0975. And with the Phillies about to drop their 9th straight, I'm sure we'll get some angry memos from Phillies fans. Bring them all. We'll do this again at 5:25. All right, coming up next, let's get back to the NFL draft. Tim McManus should be here shortly from ESPN. But let's dive deep into what we think the Eagles' plans will be tonight. Because Howie Roseman said something back in January that I think might have tipped his hand with the direction that the Eagles are going in the draft over the next couple of days. We'll do that coming up next, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson, right here, Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Savannah Kelleher with this Fanatic Sports Update. It is NFL Draft Day, and it all kicks off at 8 o'clock. The Eagles have 8 picks in the draft, starting with the 23rd overall. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, is with us the entire show, breaking down every little thing for the draft. ESPN's Tim McManus joins us from 4 to 6. NFL draft coverage is here all day and night long on 97.5 The Fanatic, so be sure to keep it here. The Flyers are up 3-0 over the Penguins after last night's win. They can go for the sweep on Saturday at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Joel Embiid participated in some of today's practice. The Sixers host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Celtics tomorrow night. The series is tied 1-1. And the Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has led inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more at crohn'scolitisfoundation.org. I'm Savannah Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Andrew, why should listeners tune into the show that follows yours?
You should listen to Middays with Marks.
back in the Unfiltered, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson, New Jersey. We'll be here all the way up until 6 o'clock. Make sure you head on over, not only for some great food and drinks, but you can watch the show, and we got some giveaways for you. We're giving away a Super Bowl 59 football. There's only 5,000 of them in existence. It's a pretty cool thing, commemorates that magical season from 2 years ago. We also have a Travis Konechny signed puck with a certificate of authenticity, and a Travis Sanheim, who's turned in to be a true #1 defenseman for the Philadelphia Flyers. We got a signed stick from Travis Sanheim. So come on in, put your name in the bucket, and say hello. We're also getting you ready for the NFL draft tonight. Tim McManus of ESPN will be joining us shortly. But to my right, we got Andrew DiCecco, our Birds insider, and to my left, we have our morning show host, not John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas. A lot of people were like, oh, no, not Kincade. But it's Chunas. It's Chunas.
Who was saying that?
I'm only kidding. I love John. John's all flyed up, man. Him and I were texting last night about it. But let's talk about the NFL draft a little bit, because everyone tries to predict what teams are going to do and what are the Eagles going to do. And a lot of times it's difficult because you don't know of how he's going to move up and down the draft board. But he said something in January when the season ended where I think he tipped his hand in terms of what side of the football they're going to spend all these draft picks on. Listen to Howie Roseman from January.
As you get better, you have a natural arc of the team, and I think that when you look at our team, we drafted a lot of offensive players, we signed a lot of offensive players, we drafted a lot of defensive players that were young on rookie contracts. So there's natural transition in what we do, and I'm not making an excuse for anything, but there's a natural transition in that in terms of where you're paying your guys, which side of the ball you're paying guys, who are coming up. The important thing for us is there are players that we can't lose. I mean, obviously, we're going to do what's best for us, and we're not going to do whatever it takes to do whatever it takes, but within reason, and that we want to keep around here because they're really good players, homegrown players that are really good people that are part of our core. And so with that, you're going to have to make sacrifices, and that's on me to make sure that the sacrifices we make are filled in with really good players again.
All right, so that was Howie Roseman back in January, and you see him saying there's a natural arc to roster building. They drafted a lot of offensive players, and then they paid those offensive players. In fact, their salary cap, about $176 million, was dedicated to the offense. Well, they drafted a lot of defensive players who were still playing on their rookie contracts, which means the salary cap on defense was about $100 million less than what you had on offense. So what's going to happen now? You got to start paying those defensive players, which means what? You need offensive players on rookie contracts, something that they haven't had over the last few seasons because they haven't spent a lot of draft picks on offense. I would be shocked if you don't see Howie Roseman use a majority of his picks over the next few days, especially in the first 3 rounds, on that side of the ball, on the offensive side of the football, knowing what's coming, having to pay Quignon and Cooper DeJean and Jalen Carter, and the list goes on.
Yeah, that's the expectation, and that was my expectation going into it. And, looking at it through the lens of roster construction, the balancing act that you have to do, you need to bring in some cost-controlled young building blocks to start to build up that side while you take care of your defensive cornerstones and make sure they're in the fold for the long term.
So, Salciunas, when you look at this team, is that where you see the biggest needs on the offensive side of the football, knowing what we just heard from Roseman? Hey, we got to pay these defensive guys. Do you see most of the needs in the draft on offense?
Yeah, I feel bad that you went back 3 months into the archives of audio to play something that I think is so obvious. Like, we're talking about a team that has guys that are about to leave, either retirement or free agency. I mean, we're doing this song and dance every other year with Dallas Goedert. Lane Johnson, we know whether he retires in a year or 2, you're going to need his replacement. We know how important that position is. So I think it's a guarantee at this point. I think I don't ever want to call Howie Roseman dumb because he's one of the best executives in football. I think it would be very naive, I'll say, of him to not focus on the offensive line early on, tight end position early on. Look at the history of tight ends for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's much like catchers for the Phillies. They've had like 4 over the last 20 or 30 years. It's such a big staple for the Eagles as a franchise. And as Andrew DiCecco could say even better than I can, it's a staple of a Sean Mannion offense. So Dallas Goedert you have for at least another year. You're hoping that you have Sean Mannion for more than 1, and you're going to need another tight end to take over when Dallas Goedert potentially leaves after this season.
And that's not to say that the Eagles don't have defensive needs, right? You look at edge rusher.
Oh, yeah.
They have Jalen Hunt, you have Nolan Smith, 2 young pieces, But I think the room would be best served by adding that headliner, someone who can absorb the full complement of snaps, much in the way that Jalen Phillips did, and then all of a sudden everyone else slots into their roles where they're more ideally suited, and they're commanding more attention from opposing offensive linemen.
All right, so let me play devil's advocate for a second, because I do believe they probably go heavy offense, as I just laid out, and Andrew Salciunas and Andrew DiCecco both laid out why as well. But you just mentioned, AD, the needs they do have on defense, and edge rusher is one of them. Safety is another one.
Corner's a long-term need.
Because Tariq
Woolen's 1 year?
Yeah, Tariq Woolen is only a one-year deal.
If he plays well, he's going to price himself in all likelihood out of the Eagles' budget. If he doesn't perform well, then you have what happened to Adoree Jackson, where he remains unsigned.
That is definitely a good point. So corner, add that to the room as well as of needs. So let's focus on edge rusher for a second. We know they wanted to re-sign Jaylen Phillips. It didn't happen because he priced himself out. One of the guys here who's at the Jug Handle Inn right now came up to us during the break, and he asked about the potential trade for Max Crosby from the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, we all remember what happened when Crosby got traded to the Ravens, and then he failed his physical and all that. That would be a dream for me if they were able to go and make a swing for a guy like a Max Crosby, but it's probably going to take, at the very least, your first-round draft pick, if not this year, maybe next year's draft pick. Would you consider doing that? If the Vegas Raiders called up Howie Roseman and said, hey, we would trade you Max Crosby, but you got to send us a first-round pick, would you do that?
No, I would not. Max Crosby is an aging player. If you look at his snap share, Bill, he's played over 900 snaps for a number of years, so you have to worry about the longevity. I'm also not entirely sure if he would be a fit in a Vic Fangio defense. And when you're talking about a first-round pick to get him and you're unsure as to the fit, I would pass on that. Now, there are other players who have been rumored to be available via trade, and I would look at Nick Herbig from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Alex Highsmith, who I've been really high on coming out of Charlotte dating back to the 2020 draft. And, you also have Jonathan Grenard.
Yeah, now Jonathan Grenard from Minnesota, I remember Adam Schefter was on with you in the morning, Andrew, and he indicated he thought that ship has sailed.
He said it cooled off a little bit, but he would not be surprised if it sparked back up. If you remember his article that dropped earlier in the week when the A.J. Brown stuff sort of fired back up again, paragraph 2 is about Jonathan Grenard, and he did mention if Grenard does not happen, Howie Roseman always has a plan A, B, and C. And I'm not a GM. I'm not a reporter like the great Tim McManus and Andrew DiCecco are. I can look at this roster and say they need help on the edge. And they don't do the marquee guy. Like, look, they won a Super Bowl with Josh Sweat, right? So they don't need Max Crosby. But a guy like a Grenard or maybe that second-tier or third-tier guy, because we know Vic Fangio defense, it's about that interior pressure. But all I can say is Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt is not enough for me to feel comfortable going into a season. So I think they address that position at some point, just maybe not in the draft.
And you just heard Andrew Salciunas say, I'm not a reporter like the great Tim McManus and Andrew DiCecco.
You're welcome.
Well, Andrew DiCecco's here. But now joining us from ESPN, the great Tim McManus. Timmy Mac, what's up, my brother?
What's up, boys? What's going on? It's nice to be side by side, Andrew DiCecco and you guys.
It's great to see you, man. And
yeah, good to see you too, pal.
It's been a week, what, a week?
It's been too long.
Yeah.
Why didn't you guys tell me there was roosters all over the parking lot at this place?
Oh,
How many did you dodge? I dodged 5.
There was one that was really aggressive when I got out of the car.
Same here. I was worried.
I thought he was going to attack.
Apparently that rooster was a big Jaylen Herz fan. He read your article. He was mad.
That's right. He's not alone.
We'll get to that a little bit later, Tim. We'll get to that a little bit later. But, yes, Tim McManus does a great job covering the Eagles for ESPN. We're getting ready for the NFL draft. Usually when I talk to Tim, it's over the phone. The last time I think we did a show together was Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. So it's exciting to actually be sitting down with you as we get ready for tonight's draft. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question that I've been asking Andrew DiCecco. I mean, you look at this Eagles team right now, where do you see their biggest needs heading into this weekend with the 3 days of the draft?
Yeah, I mean, the offensive front's just screaming at them right now, isn't it? And we know what the history is under Howie Roseman and Andy Reid before him. This is a team that builds through the trenches. It's why they've had this kind of sustained success over multiple decades at this point. And for the first time in a really long time, the offensive line was a vulnerability for this team last year. They know that. They know that Lane Johnson was flirting with retirement. They know that Landon Dickerson was flirting with retirement. And they also know that they look at that first round, and there's a number of offensive tackles that could be within range for them. So I think first and foremost, you got to start with the offensive front, and I think that's more than likely where the Eagles end up going in the first round.
Now, if they do, in fact, go offensive line in the first round, do you see Howie Roseman sitting tight and picking at 23, or you think he's going to have to move up the draft board to target the guy he wants?
Did you say Howie Roseman and sitting tight? That doesn't happen. I think he's moving up. I mean, especially because there's just no guarantee that the type of offensive lineman that they're going after, the tackles, are going to make it to 23. And I think that there's been a lot of hard-learned lessons over time from Roseman. It's like, you can't sit, man. Like, if you identify a player that you want, you go up and get him. We know he's one of the most aggressive GMs in the league, and I think he's going to be active like he normally is.
Yeah, you look at a Caden Proctor or a Monroe Freeling, and those are two high-end players that scream Eagles to me, Tim, based on their attributes and, by all accounts, their character. So it's fair to wonder if there's going to be some teams in the teens that are going to consider them. So you may have to be aggressive if you want to go up and get them.
Yeah. Did you hear Nick Saban talking about Caden Proctor today?
I did hear that.
So that was really interesting. He's a bigger guy, like very athletic. But when Saban was talking about him, he said he's not exactly a self-starter, and he won't always come into shape into training camp, and that's somebody that you sort of have to manage in that way. It kind of evoked Jordan Davis vibes in a certain sense. And maybe part of you says, well, maybe if he gets in a building with, as great of a staff as the Eagles have, and somebody like Davis who's sort of been through that could be a really good pathway for him. The other part is he, if that is sort of the rub on him, does that mean he's going to drop a little bit? So I thought that was a really fascinating piece of insight by Nick Saban today.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to have some concerns when it comes to conditioning and the weight. He's 6'6", 352 pounds. Does that align with the Eagles' vision with their newly reconfigured offensive line and run designs?
A lot of questions about the new offensive line, right? I mean, you have the long time tenured Jeff Stoutland, not part of it. It raises a lot of questions about what they're looking for.
All right, so let me ask you this. I asked you earlier, do you think Howie Roseman's going to stand pat? And you're right, no way. He's going to move up or down the draft board. Your colleague, Adam Schefter, was on with Andrew Salciunas, I believe it was on Wednesday.
Yep.
And said that don't be surprised if he also makes another type of move. Now, are you hearing anything where the Philadelphia Eagles would make a trade for an existing player and not draft somebody tonight?
Well, Schefter doesn't usually drop those things, and there's nothing behind it, right? I mean, he's obviously hearing something. Jonathan Grenard is the name that's been most popular, that there's been a lot of smoke around. Doesn't seem like he's a fit with the Vikings. They're looking to move on from him, and the Eagles have been long tied to them. But we know that Roseman gets creative, and so whether it's Grenard or otherwise, I keep both eyes open as to him making some moves here.
All right, so I asked Andrew DiCecco right before you got here, because one of our listeners who's here live at the Jug Handle Inn, and make sure you make your way over here. We'll be picking our winners of the Super Bowl 59 football, the Travis Sanheim stick, and Travis Konechny puck before the end of the show. So over here, get your names in the hat. A little bit later, I'll tell you how to win a $100 gift card to Rally House. But one of our listeners here at the Jug Handle came up during the break and asked about Max Crosby. Now, if you were Howie Roseman, would you still be trying to call the Vegas Raiders to see if you can make a move for Max Crosby? And do you think that that's a realistic possibility for the Philadelphia Eagles?
We know that the finances are such where they don't have a ton of room to make splashes, but that won't prevent Roseman from getting creative if he identifies like an all-timer type of player that can make a big-time difference. So, when the names like Myles Garrett and Max Crosby come up, I don't dismiss it because I know that the way that he thinks, like the middle-of-the-road players, I don't think he's going to make a big move for. But when you're talking about the splashes, he likes to splash. He likes difference-making players. Think of the A.J. Brown trade from a handful of years ago as an example of that, where he just comes out with the thunder and makes a move that people are like, wow, that sort of brings the attention of the NFL to Philadelphia's doorstep. So I don't discount it. I recognize, though, that it'll take some financial gymnastics to make that kind of stuff happen, given all the big contracts that they have on this roster.
Yeah, and we were looking at the salary cap a little bit earlier. It's interesting because they did such a good job of drafting on the offensive side of the football, but they had to pay all those guys. And then they did a really good job of drafting on the defensive side of the football. They've yet to pay any of them outside of Jordan Davis. So would you be shocked if tonight they draft someone on defense? Because it seems like the common sense rationale would be, all right, they're going to start drafting offensive players again. But would you be shocked if they went defense at 23?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. The way that I look at it and the way that Roseman has explained it is they have these guys in tiers, right? So let's say there's a group of 4 players and they're all tiered. They're all in the same tier. If one of those guys is an offensive tackle, they're taking the tackle. But if all of the other guys go and there's just one guy left in their highest tier and that person is a defensive end, then they're going defensive end. And I think that's the way that they look at it. I think that's a really smart way to go about your business, and it prevents you from reaching and not filling the holes that you're trying to fill. And so yeah, if it ends up that there's an edge rusher that is at the top of their board, then absolutely, I think that they could walk with the defensive players. Is that the preference? I would say probably not. If the ball, if the everything fell the way that they wanted to, I think it would be an offensive player.
I got a question for the 2 great reporters that are here. Something that I feel like we haven't talked about at all, because we're always saying draft offensive tackle, draft offensive tackle. It's not that long ago that the Eagles went after Jason Peters. It's not that long ago that they went after John Runyon. Is there a chance where, to your point, Tim, they value a guy defensively, they say, all right, we need to draft this guy at 23, and then it's next year where they look at that guy that's going to be coming off of that rookie contract, where they make the trade for it, because some of the best offensive tackles in the last 2 decades, they acquired.
I mean, it's a good point. They couldn't really go out and do that necessarily this year. That would be a next offseason thing. But, yeah,
But we're always thinking about whoever they're drafting is Lane Johnson's replacement. I mean, that's the story, right? It's who are they drafting that replaces Lane Johnson? Could they wait a year and say, we're going to go trade for a guy or sign a guy for free agency?
Yeah, I mean, they know that there's different ways to do this.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't fall their way in the first round and they don't get an offensive tackle, you don't stress.
Right.
There's other ways to build this thing out. You agree with that, Andrew?
Yeah, and then there's some options on day 2 that are in a very rich tackle class, a Markel Bell out of Miami or a Travis Burke, from Memphis. There are other ways to do it. So they're not going to reach for a position of need. Howie Roseman has outlined that he's learned and really reflected on his shortcomings previously in the draft. And so I would expect positional value.
All right, so here's what I want. I want people to send in any draft questions they have for the great Andrew DiCecco and Tim McManus. Hit us up on the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975, and get your voice memos in. We Hear You coming up in about an hour at 5:25. Send your voice memos with any questions or any predictions you have for the draft tonight. And, of course, Flyers fans, bring the energy. We can't get enough. Flyered up. Ignite the orange. Send them in, 610-632-0975. But coming up next, the conversation I want to have with Tim and the Andrews, A.J. Brown. Trade not going away. It's now being deemed likely. If it does, in fact, happen, are the Eagles set at wide receiver with the additions that they've made this offseason, or could we expect a wide receiver to be called when the Eagles are on the draft clock tonight or tomorrow? We'll have that conversation coming up next, live from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson, Unfiltered on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Savannah Kelleher with this Fanatic Sports Update. The NFL Draft kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. The Eagles have 8 picks, starting with the 23rd overall pick. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, is with us the entire show, talking everything about the draft. ESPN's Tim McManus is now with us until the end of the show as well. You're going to want to keep it here all day and all night long for our draft coverage on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers go up 3-0 over the Penguins with their win last night. They can go for the sweep Saturday with Game 4 at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Joel Embiid participated in some of today's practice. The Sixers host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. The series is tied 1-1. And the Philadelphia Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has led inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more at crohnscolitisfoundation.org. I'm Savannah Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Connor, what's the
John's is turning up the heat with your choice of 3 new oven-toasted sandwiches, just $7.99 each or $6.99 with Papa Pairings. Order today at papajohns.com, on the Papa John's app, or stop by your local Papa John's.
All right, welcome back into Unfiltered. We are broadcasting live from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson. We'll be here till 6 o'clock. The place is jumping already. Get on over here. Great food, great drinks as we get you ready for the NFL draft tonight. Philadelphia Eagles pick 23rd overall. We want to hear from you with your predictions for where you think the Eagles might go. Send them into the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. Get your voice memos in for We Hear You. I got our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, with us, and ESPN's Tim McManus. They're both going to be here for the remainder of the show, getting into everything you need to know for your Philadelphia Eagles tonight. Now, one of the big questions, though, that has been dominating the offseason, will A.J. Brown get traded? And that's starting to look like a foregone conclusion. So I want to ask you, Timmy Mack from ESPN, one, do you expect A.J. Brown to get traded? And if so, does that mean the Eagles might call a wide receiver's name in the next couple of days at the draft?
Yeah, I mean, the writing's on the wall when it comes to A.J. Brown. Like, when we were out at the owners' meetings in Arizona a couple weeks ago, there's just like a calmness around the situation, where the noise has kind of gone down, but the buzz has not, there's still been that straight line, connection between the Eagles and the Patriots with Brown. It just hasn't gone away. Almost like, it's agreed to, but maybe not officially, but it just has that calm feeling where you're like, all right, there's this inevitability, and they're waiting it out because obviously they have that June 1 financial implication. They got to wait in order to not have the dead cap accelerate all to the 2026 season. So absolutely, I think that A.J. Brown is going to be off of this roster, and I think it does open up the possibility that they draft a wide receiver. Now, Roseman's done a really good job of complementing Devontae Smith with some interesting pieces, right? Dontavian Wicks gets acquired from Green Bay. Elijah Moore, Hollywood Brown get signed to one-year deals, and so they don't have to force it. And that's the theme of the Eagles drafts. They set themselves up so they don't have to extend beyond their normal reach in order to acquire somebody. But if it lines up, absolutely, you're going to need a long-term answer opposite of Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I'm going into this with the mindset that they're going to come away with a receiver on day 1 or day 2. Knowing that the value is going to be there, I think it'll align with their picks. And it's also a long-term need when you look at the receiving core and how it's constructed.
No, I agree with you. Who do you like?
In round 1, I like Omar
go.
Cooper Jr. from Indiana.
All right.
In round 2 at 54, Chris Bell out of Louisville is probably my favorite receiver in this draft class. Might even be a first-round pick had it not been for the ACL injury later in his season. I also like Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. I think he's a really consistent, solid player. Then you have Ted Hurst, if you're looking at pick 68, right within that range, out of Georgia State. Burner, 6'4", 206. Really fast, and I think if you're a team that prides yourself on developing wide receivers, he has a lot of upside.
Yeah, and Denzel Boston's going to be within that range too. You wonder if there's too much J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, vibes with him and his ability to not separate quite as much as some of these other guys, but a big-bodied receiver that obviously would be, really nice to have opposite of a guy like Devontae Smith, who's obviously smaller stature.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why Dontavian Wicks, as you outlined, really complements, I think, ideally, Devontae Smith. With a bigger body, 6'1", 210 pounds or thereabouts, and gives you more of that physical presence on the opposite side.
I love it. If you can hear the Eagles chants in the background, people are ready for the NFL draft tonight. There's a lot of Flyers orange in the building as well here at the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson. Great atmosphere, so make your way over here. We'll be here until 6 o'clock. Let's talk a little more about Dontavian Wicks, because he was entering the final year of his rookie deal, so they didn't have to give him a contract extension, but they did when they traded for him, and they gave him, I think it was a little over $12 million. Sean Mannion has experience with Dontavian Wicks. He's had okay seasons in Green Bay, but do you expect him to have a breakout season in this offense in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform this year?
Yeah, I'm going to go short of breakout, but there's obvious intrigue from the front office and the coaching staff towards Wicks, and Roseman gave that that story about him and Nick Sirianni being on the plane together, and they're climbing over people to show one another highlights of Dontavian Wicks. So there's obviously like a little juice here. They feel like he can bring something. And Bill, when you're giving somebody money on top of it after the trade, it shows you there's some investment in this player that he is going to get on the field. They envision him being a key part of Sean Mannion's offense. And
breakout is all relative, right? I mean, he's a 30 catch a season type of receiver. You catch 45, 50 balls, that does constitute as a breakout season.
Yeah, his best season was probably his rookie year, where he had 39 catches, 581 yards. He's taken a little bit of a step back each of the last two, no more than 415 yards in the last two seasons. But obviously they liked him. I've heard Howie Roseman talk about him. They've had their eye on him for a while. He gets added to the wide receiver room. The other receiver they added was Hollywood Brown. Do you expect Hollywood Brown to be a big part of this offense as well this coming season?
Not really. I mean, a contributor, sure, but I don't know that he's somebody that is really going to move the needle at the wide receiver. And you don't necessarily need him to be, a big splash guy all the time if he's going to be operating effectively as your number 3. As long as he is getting some solid contributions and stretches the field every once in a while, I think that's, they'll take that as a win.
Yeah, we see it the same way. I mean, Hollywood Brown's not a volume-based receiver, nor do I really see him in this offense. I mean, look at the targets for Jahan Dotson. Granted, they are expected to spread the ball around a little bit more under Sean Mannion, but I just don't see him as a high-volume player. I do see him as a field stretcher, although oddly enough, Tim, he's a burner, but he hasn't really been utilized in that way. I think he's averaging just a career 12.5 yards a catch.
Yeah, it's almost like the reputation doesn't match the numbers.
Right. It's kind of weird. And he's been playing with, Lamar Jackson early in his career and Kyler Murray with the Cardinals, so they just haven't been able to tap into it, I guess.
So we'll see how it all plays out. But we want your voice memos today. We hear you coming up at 5:25. So if you have predictions on what you think the Eagles might do in the draft, send them in. Also want that Flyers energy. If you were at the game last night, we want to hear about the atmosphere at Xfinity Mobile Arena that was absolutely electric. Voice memos, 610-632-0975. Let's go to the phones because Tony from West Philly wants to talk about who he thinks the Eagles should pick. What's going on, Tony? You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, how y'all fellas doing today?
Living the dream, my man. What you got?
Oh, I'm living the dream, too. The draft is my specialty. I do it every year. I predicted the Eagles pick last year, Andrew DiCecco. But the Eagles could get the steal of the draft twice. Anthony Hill Jr. is the most complete defensive player in this draft, and he's going to fall to the Eagles. Jahad Campbell is a year away. He's not ready. They lost to Kobe Dean. I didn't really like him a lot. I thought he was limited in what he could bring to the team. But when you can get an Anthony Hill Jr., he plays all three linebackers position. They rushing him from the edge. He has good vision. He covers well. He's the most complete defensive player in the draft. I would take him. I would trade A.J. Brown for 2 2s. They get a 2 this year, 2 2028. I would get Malachi Fields, probably one of the best platform receivers coming out of this draft. 6'4", and then I will finally end up with A.J. Halsey with my second pick. A.J. Halsey, the strong safety, you got him and McCuba. So you get those 3, and as your guests were saying, you can get linemen, even undrafted free agents, and just fill the void. But next year is when the offensive linemen really come out. So that's...
Tony from West Philly's got the whole draft broken down, man. Some people love the draft. But let's look at who he said he would take tonight with the first pick. Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. Do you like him as a prospect? Do you think he would fall to the Eagles, and would they be interested in a guy like him?
As a day 2 fit, yes. As a late second round or a third round pick, maybe at 98 or 68, I think he would be a good fit. But they have Jahad Campbell. I mean, linebacker's not really an area of need, but the Eagles aren't going to bypass it if they view him as a difference maker. He's really athletic. He's talking about Anthony Hill out of Texas, and he's athletic. He's has a little bit more of a linear build, but I think the range and the sideline-to-sideline prowess is pretty appealing.
The whole Jahad Campbell shoulder thing is not the best news in the world, that he might not be on the field until training camp. That's something that he came into the league with, something that appears to be lingering. And, we're going to have to see where that goes. I think the good news for them is that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a baller. He can play. And I think the only reason he really wasn't getting significant snaps last year is just because he was blocked by some really good linebackers.
Yeah.
So if he does have to step in, I have confidence that he can hold it down if Campbell gets off to a slow start or isn't ready right away, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's teams out there, Tim, that he would likely be starting for, or at least challenging for a starting job. He's just a little, he's caught in a logjam here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, but after, the Eagles go with the linebacker in the first round last year, let's not get crazy and say that they're going to keep loading up early in the draft.
Yes.
And then there's linebacker spots.
Yeah, and there might be another Trotter coming off the board tonight, right?
Josiah, probably day 2.
Yeah, day 2 pick, Josiah Trotter.
About that.
So, yeah, man, genetics are important things sometimes, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Producing all that. Like me and Salciunas, we got the genetics, man. Oh, your mic's not even on.
I'm out of the show. Oh, here I am.
Silvana's like, I don't need to hear from Chunas. We got Andrew DiCecco and Tim McManus. She's like, let me turn Chunas down as
I'll
much
stay
as
over
possible.
here. Don't worry about it. But yeah, we got good genetics, dude. It's great.
All right, so here's what I want to get into coming up. Both Tim and Andrew DiCecco have said they wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Philadelphia Eagles drafted a wide receiver. Well, when you look at Howie Roseman's history of drafting wide receivers outside of Devontae Smith, it hasn't been that great. And it's sometimes hard to forget he hasn't always been the best draft pick guy as a general manager. Howie Roseman struggled up until recent when it comes to draft picks. So we'll hear what Howie Roseman said on what he's learned from all those misses. And I want to get Tim and Andrew's opinion on what's changed with the Eagles draft process that has made them so successful over the last few years. And come on out to the Jug Handle Inn. We will be here until 6 o'clock. Coming up next, I'm going to tell you how to win a $100 gift card to Rally House. So do not go anywhere. Unfiltered continues right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And if you heard that big scream, it was because the Phillies just tied the game up with an Adolis the Swollest Garcia home run. But we're getting you ready for the NFL draft. We got our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, here. We got ESPN's Tim McManus. We even have Andrew Salciunas from the morning show. So come on down. We'll be here till 6 o'clock. Get some great food, have some good times at the Jug Handle Inn. And if you want a shot at a $100 gift card to Rally House, for those not yet in the building, not yet at the Jug Handle Inn, the first person to get here and come up to us and say, "Sound the horn, Sil," will win $100 to Rally House. So drive safely, but get over here, and all you got to do is tell us to sound the horn for the Flyers, and you'll get a $100 gift card.
I thought it'd be the first person to give DiCecco a big hug, because I know Andrew loves hugs from strangers.
Yes, he does.
I thought that's what it would have been.
I absolutely do not.
Same.
No, that is the prize in of itself. You hug DiCecco. That is your prize.
I thought you were
Don't
giving
encourage.
out shots.
Yeah.
It said,
Yeah, when he said
when he
shots.
paused there,
Sure.
if you want a shot.
Yeah, I looked up. I was like, where's this thing headed?
You guys aren't working tonight. You guys are fine.
Yeah. Tim and Andrew will be leaving right from here to go to what was formerly the NovaCare complex. What is it now? The Jefferson Health Facility? What do they call it?
Something like that.
Something
Jefferson
like that.
Health Training
It'll
Complex.
always be NovaCare.
It'll always be NovaCare. They'll be headed over to the Eagles headquarters. How about that? That's easier to say. Right after the show to follow everything that's going on with the draft tonight. But I do want people's voice memos today. We Hear You coming up. Flyers fans, bring the energy on the voice memos. Eagles fans, give your predictions for tonight. Hit them up. Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. Now, it's hard sometimes to remember that Howie Roseman hasn't always been so great at drafting. If you go back and you look at 2010 through 2015, he picked 16 times in the first 3 rounds, and only 8 of those 16 turned out to be long-term starters. Now, when you compare that to what he's done in recent years, he's picked 27 times in the first 3 rounds, and 22 of them have become productive starters. Now, earlier this week, Howie Roseman was asked, do you still think about all those early misses in the draft? Here was Howie Roseman.
Yeah, a lot. I think about the first round picks that I've missed on, I don't know, every day, really, if I'm being honest with myself. I think that sometimes when I think about those picks and think about the reasons that I miss on those picks, sometimes I even overcompensate, So if you're bringing me somebody that may look like one of those guys, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, and I'm going to be skeptical. And I'm going to be skeptical in my own report on those guys. I feel like they've also helped me really get better at my job. And I think if it wasn't for those mistakes, I think a lot of the successful picks may have not have happened. So, I can't go back and change the past. I'm very comfortable kind of understanding that as much as I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my hardest to be as perfect as I can be.
Now, Tim, there's Howie Roseman talking about how he has learned from all those mistakes. Now, you could say, oh, that's just lip service, but when you look at the track record since those mistakes, he's been phenomenal. So what do you think has been the biggest change with the Eagles' approach to the draft in recent years that has resulted in all this success?
Well, the first thing that stands out is that he thinks about it every day. I mean, talk about somebody that is obsessed with their work. And I think, people who are really high functioning at their jobs, that's sort of what comes with it, right? There's a certain part that antagonizes you where you can't turn your brain off because you want to have perfection at your given craft. And it's very clear that Roseman is exactly wired like that. And I think it serves him well because he has taken those stumbles, and he's had a number of them, as you pointed out early, that he has now turned into kind of riches and, this kind of sustained success that they've had over a long period of time now. And I think a lot of it comes down to, keeping it simple, drafting out of major programs, not trying to reinvent the wheel. They obviously have great scouts, and they have a good investigative department and trainers and the whole thing that make the whole piece come together. But really, I mean, if you're drafting really good players from really good programs, chances are they're going to be able to translate to the NFL.
Yeah, and looking at specific instead of looking at specific traits, and you're looking at intangibles, like Jalen Reagor, for example. They were enamored with the speed, but maybe not the temperament wasn't taken into consideration and things like that. So all the past failures, if you will. I believe he just taken a step back, learned from it, asked questions, done his research, and really leaned on his scouts.
It became a running joke when they were taking all the Georgia guys, but why wouldn't you take all the Georgia guys? You look at it. I mean, they had one of the most dominant defenses in NCAA history. You take the key pieces from that, you apply it to this defense, and really good things have happened.
Yeah, they've also taken a lot of guys from Alabama, and arguably the best receiver he's ever drafted from Alabama is Devontae Smith. So let's talk about the wide receiver position, because both of you think there's a strong chance they draft a wide receiver on the first couple days of the draft. But when you look at Howie Roseman's history, outside of Devontae Smith, they have really struggled to draft wide receivers. Now, granted, they haven't taken a lot of wide receivers early in recent years, but Anais Smith in 2024 hasn't really panned out. They took Devontae in 2021. That's been a massive home run. But before that, we know the Jalen Reagors, the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So what leads you to believe that Howie, if he does draft a wide receiver, is going to get it right this time as opposed to all the other times in the past?
You know, I don't think there is any guarantee, honestly. I mean, is there a chance that they whiff on it? Yeah, they could. And I think that there's another X factor, Andrew, in the fact of you have a new offensive coordinator. And that offensive coordinator is going to have his specific tastes, and it's all kind of new. And you have to blend it all together and mix what Nick Sirianni likes with what Sean Mannion likes with what Howie Roseman fundamentally believes in a wide receiver. And I think it honestly, when we're talking about multiple positions on offense right now, it complicates the picture a little bit. You're talking about an offensive overhaul in their system. You have to fit new pieces in there, and you have different voices that have entered the program. So this is interesting.
Yeah, like offensive linemen. Are they going to look for more of a athletic, undersized offensive lineman who can move really well and get to that second level, or are they going to look for more of the mauler or a project player where you feel confident that Jeff Stoutland's going to maximize their ability? There's a lot of questions that I have here when it comes to the offensive line, but even with the wide receiver, Tim, I mean, you would imagine that being around A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, you see certain traits and characteristics that you're looking for that you believe works well with the quarterback and the overall system.
I think it goes back to the point of, can you get productive receivers from big-time programs who have shown on the biggest stages that they can perform? You see how it transferred with Devontae Smith as a great example of that. He was big in big-time moments at Alabama, and he continued to be here in Philadelphia. And there's obviously going to be exceptions to that role, like Quinyon Mitchell, but they had a lot of intel. They had people in the building at his collegiate program where they were able to dig in. So that becomes the exception, but the main rule of thumb is draft from the big programs.
Yeah, and what a home run Quinyon Mitchell has become. Now, right before we were talking about that, I said the first person out there that came to the Jug Handle Inn and said hit the horn sill would win $100 to Rally House. Well, we got somebody, and say the words.
Hit the horn sill.
Hit the horn sill, you heard it. There it is. And what's your name?
Mag.
Peg?
Mag.
Well, congratulations, Mag. Spend your $100 at Rally House. You getting Flyers gear, Eagles gear, Sixers, Phillies? What you doing?
I'm going to get a Ricky Bo t-shirt.
Oh, a Ricky Bo t-shirt.
Nice.
How about that? Are you kidding me?
Let's go Flyers!
Oh, we got the Flyers energy going on. Everybody is excited for the Philadelphia Flyers, who are up 3-0. But you do have the NFL draft tonight, so let's see how excited people are for that. That was the subject of our Twitter poll today. Tim, we checked it earlier. 57% of people said they are not excited for the NFL draft. Let's see if those numbers have changed. Twitter poll always standing strong thanks to Dr. Avi Donapel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. What do we got, Sil? People changing their minds? We getting them fired up or what?
I have bad news for you, because are you excited for the NFL draft? You have 44% saying yes and 56% saying no.
Come on, hit it!
All right, so a lot of people are not as excited for the draft as we all are, but we're going to try to change your minds over the next hour. Don't worry, though, if you didn't get the Rally House gift card, if you come on down, we still have the giveaways. We will pick the winner before the end of the show. We got the Super Bowl 59 football, the Travis Sanheim signed stick, the Travis Konechny signed puck. So get down here, get some great food.
I'm table dancing after this.
Andrew Salciunas is a couple beers in. He's going to be dancing on the tables before we know it. And I think we're losing Salciunas, so we appreciate you stopping by.
I can go table dance. That's what I'm doing, dude. It's draft night.
How about that?
We appreciate it. All right, but here's what we got coming up. Still get your voice memos in. All right, Flyers fans especially, bring the energy for We Hear You at 525. Send them in 610-632-0975. However, on April 1st, our man Tim McManus of ESPN, along with Jeremy Fowler, dropped an article about the Eagles' offensive struggles last season. And a lot of it was pointed by sources at Jaylen Herz. Tim McManus is here with us. He's going to have an opportunity to elaborate on that report. But Howie Roseman, last week, was asked about that report and had some things to say. We will play what Howie Roseman said, and we will give our own Tim McManus of ESPN an opportunity to respond to those comments. You're definitely going to want to keep it here, and we have a $1,000 giveaway coming up right after this on Unfiltered Live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now on 97.5 The Fanatic Sports Update.
I'm Savannah Kelleher with this Fanatic Sports Update. It is NFL Draft Day, and it all kicks off at 8 o'clock. The Eagles have 8 picks, starting with the 23rd overall pick. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, is with us the entire show, talking everything about the NFL Draft, and ESPN's Tim McManus is with us until the show ends, too. NFL Draft coverage is here all day and night long on 97.5 The Fanatic. The Flyers are up 3-0 over the Penguins after last night's win. They can go for the sweep on Saturday at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Joel Embiid participated in some of today's Sixers practice. The Sixers host Game 3 of their best-of-7 playoff series with the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. Series is tied 1-1. And the Phillies have released pitcher Taijuan Walker. This update was brought to you by Positive Coaching Alliance. Questions about youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, develops better athletes and better people through sports. Info at positivecoach.org. I'm Savannah Kelleher on the home of the Sixers, Flyers, and the Union, 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Savannah.
Chance to win $1,000. The contest keyword is credit. C-R-E-D-I-T. Credit. You got 25 minutes after the hour to enter it on the Fanatic app or at 975thefanatic.com. You could also text it to the special contest short code 45911. Remember, keyword credit. One random entry wins $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Winners are going to get a call from Beasley, so be sure to answer your phone. Contest rules at 975thefanatic.com. Fanatic Parlay Cash stood up by Iron Mountain Men's Health. You have 5 chances to win every single weekday, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon, and right here on Unfiltered at 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. Good luck.
This is Unfiltered with Ricky Bo and Bill Colarulo on 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
That's right, a little after 5 o'clock here on Unfiltered. We are live from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson, New Jersey. Still time to come on out. We'll be here till 6 o'clock. We're doing our drawing for all the prizes we got right before the end of the show. So get over here, get some good food, good drinks. There's a lot of people, a lot of energy in the bar right now. So come over, say hello, and put your name in the bucket for the prizes. But to my right, I have our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco. I have ESPN's Tim McManus. We're getting you ready for the NFL draft tonight. So one of the things I want to talk about is, will the Philadelphia Eagles take a quarterback at any point in this draft? But before we do, I think it's relevant to jump into Tim McManus's article that he wrote along with Jeremy Fowler on April 1st. And the title of the article was Inside Eagles 2025 Friction as Jaylen Herz Stands at a Crossroads. Now, Tim, there were some fans who didn't read it and they only saw some tidbits from it, and they immediately think, here's the media again going after Jaylen Herz. And that's not what this article was. In fact, you spoke to well over a dozen sources. So for those who did not read it, can you give us a little summary of what this article was about as it pertained to Jaylen Herz?
So the idea of Jaylen Herz being at a crossroads, there's a new offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion that's coming in that's going to be majoring in some very specific concepts, right? So he's a lot of under center, play action, motion. And from our reporting, those are a couple of the things that Hertz, over the course of his time here, has been reluctant towards. And so it sort of pits this situation where, all right, there's been frustration in the building and some pockets of the building towards Hertz because of this reluctance to change. He wants it a very certain way, and I think that obviously has worked great for him in some kind of respects, but as you go through an NFL career, you have to evolve as an offense, or else it ends up getting stale. It gets predictable, people keep up on it, and then you have the kind of results that you had last year with the passing game, and honestly over the last 2+ years with the passing game struggles. And so now it kind of puts the onus on Hertz to get on board with what's happening, because they have decided to make the most drastic change to the offense since Nick Sirianni has been here, and it's kind of going in direct contrast to what Hertz has been comfortable with since he's gotten here. And so how is that all going to work? And so that is sort of the premise of the article.
And I know you're not going to reveal your sources, nor should you, because you're an excellent reporter, but there were a lot of sources in this article. So I was a little surprised when I'm listening to Howie Roseman last week, and he gets asked about this article. I know you were there at the press conference. Yep. Andrew, I believe you were there as well. And here was Howie Roseman when he was asked about Tim McManus's article on ESPN. Here he is.
I have seen those reports. Bob and our PR staff do a great job of showing us what we need to see. I would say that we have some faults. One of them is not being direct and honest with our players and the conversations with our players. So for us, if we have any issue with any of our players, we talk to them directly. So, from my perspective, from Nick's perspective, from Jeffrey's perspective, we're not hiding behind anything. We will talk to our players directly. And I think that it's unfair. It's unfair to have these articles written, but I understand it's also what sells at this point. So, yeah, I think it's unfortunate.
All right, so there's Howie Roseman, and he's saying it's unfair and it's unfortunate for reports like this to come out. And I just want to give you an opportunity to respond to what Howie Roseman said about what I thought was a very well-written, well-sourced article.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The part that I focused on, I think, was that he was talking about, well, my interpretation of it is we don't use the media to correct players. Like, if we need to do something, we talk to those players ourselves. He did not go after the integrity of the report. He did not say this is untrue. He didn't even talk about Jaylen Hertz's qualities during that answer. And then he said it was unfortunate at the end, and he had the response of, well, that's what sells. That's not what my objective is. My objective is to report. And sometimes what I report is really glowing, and sometimes what comes back is not quite as glowing. But the way that I look at it is, if I got all this information, right? So I went out and I started asking questions about the passing game. I started asking questions about Jaylen Herz. And they told me all this stuff. And I didn't come to the people with it. Is that the right thing to do?
No.
No, the right thing to do is to be a reporter and try to report out the facts. And sometimes that leads into a positive story, and sometimes it's not as positive. But I did everything I could to make it as balanced as possible because I respect Jaylen Herz. I respect what he's accomplished over his career. I recognize him as a Super Bowl MVP, as a local hero in Philadelphia, and I put a lot of thought into that before I ended up putting pen to paper here, knowing that some people it was going to rub the wrong way. But I feel like I got a responsibility to do my job, and it's really nothing bigger than that.
And it was balanced. I thought it was very well done, Tim. And look, we're there every day. I mean, when you see the offense and they're struggling, Kevin Patullo on the outside became the face of the offensive shortcomings. But when you're there every day and you talk to people, you get a sense for there are other variables here, and you did a really good job of shedding light on Jaylen Hertz's role in the offensive inefficiencies, and I thought that was well done.
I appreciate that. I mean, if the offense isn't changing, in the passing game in particular, if the same things keep popping up, most people just came to the assumption of, that's a Nick Sirianni problem. That's a Kevin Patullo problem. And that's not the full answer. It doesn't mean that they don't have a hand in the things that held them back this past season or in past seasons. But the man with the ball in his hands on every snap is Jaylen Herz. You're going to lean towards a player's preferences. And to his defense, there's been so much change at offensive coordinator that he does want something, I think, to plant the flag on, to be like, all right, this is sort of the base of what I do and how I operate and what this offense is going to look like because we have this constant change. So something's got to be steady, and I appreciate that respect. But the other part of that is that you have to evolve. And so that's why this year is so interesting, Bill. I mean, fascinating to see how all those dynamics shake out.
Right, and while he's ably handled all of the incessant changes at offensive coordinator, it's one thing to adapt to an offense that has similarities, but it's a whole nother beast to now have to learn and do some things that are going to be a drastic departure from what he's grown accustomed to doing.
I don't know if it is meant to be a challenge, but it is a challenge to Hertz, because if you are saying, all right, this is what we're doing with the scheme. I know this isn't what you've liked, what you've run, but this is where we're going. I mean, and that franchise quarterback has to go along with it. Like that is a challenge, whether intended or not, that he's going to have to step up to. And as we know, he's been aces when it comes to stepping up to challenges. People, when you talk to people around him, and you can just see it with your own eyes, like that's when he rises up and does his very best, is when his back is against the wall, the doubters come in, is he going to work, yada, yada. And that's usually when he performs at his highest level.
Yeah, and as we look towards the future here, I thought one of the things in your article that was really encouraging is, this is a quote from your article, one team source says Hertz is as open as he's ever been to changes. So that's a good sign for the future with Sean Mannion coming in and, like you said, bringing in a new style of offense that Jaylen hasn't really ran in the past or felt comfortable running. It seems like Jaylen Herz is on board with, yes, we need to evolve. Things were not good enough last year, and you could love Jaylen Herz, you could hate him. I don't think anyone can deny that all the guy cares about is winning. I mean, he talks about that all the time. I don't think he cares necessarily how it looks. He wants to get wins at the end of the day, and that's why, even though he has some shortcomings, there's Jaylen Herz defenders who get very upset when you point out that he has some limitations. He does, just like every other quarterback in the NFL. But the one thing about him is he is a winner, and I'm happy he's the franchise quarterback for the Eagles, because all him and Sirianni have done together in 5 years is win. I mean, when we look at the down seasons for the Eagles, we're talking about 11 wins and a playoff appearance.
Not bad.
Last year they won the damn division, and people were furious about it. So, look, it's not good enough. Even Howie said, if confetti's not falling on our heads, we're not happy. I get it. But things have been pretty damn good with Jaylen Herz, Nick Sirianni over the last few seasons. But now let me ask you, as we bring it to the draft, do you expect them to draft a quarterback over the next couple of days at the NFL draft this season?
You know, I think they might. I actually think they might. It's not a lock. Like, the draft obviously has to fall a certain way. There's 32 teams trying to do this thing. There's not that many good quarterbacks out there. So obviously it's not a guarantee. But one name that I've been told to look out for, doesn't mean it's going to happen, but, you know, at least got put on my radar, was Cole Payton. Out of North Dakota State, a southpaw. Probably like a round 4 type of guy, which would be the greatest of ironies, first of all. North Dakota State quarterback, after Jaylen Herz supplants Carson Wentz, the North Dakota State product, and now here comes a possible North Dakota State product to push Jaylen Herz. But he's one of the, you know, the few dual threat quarterbacks in this draft. He only has 1 year of starting experience. He didn't throw it a ton, but he completed 72% of his throws. He's got some legs to go with what's a pretty good arm. And that, to me, is an interesting thing to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are dubbed the quarterback factory, or they dubbed themselves the quarterback factory for a reason. I think that they will. I have a strong sense that they will, even though it becomes a little less likely with just 8 picks and so many other needs. But they value the quarterback position and making sure that they have the backup quarterbacks solidified, perhaps more than any other team that, you know, around the NFL. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if they look in round 4, pick 114 or maybe 137 in the 4th round. That's a Cole Payton territory, or maybe even a Garrett Nussmeier, who otherwise probably goes a little bit higher had he not been dealing with something during his final season there. So, yeah, I mean, I would expect them to look for a cost-controlled option.
It's funny that you went Nussmeier, because the two names that I have rattling in my head are Cole Payton and Garrett Nussmeier. Nussmeier is really fascinating because he did have that down year, which dropped his stock down, but he was dealing with that abdominal injury.
Yeah.
And if he didn't have that, like, where would he be projected right now? Add on top of that the fact that they have a lot of intel on him, because Doug Nussmeier was the quarterback's coach here just a year ago. And so they know very well how he's wired, what he's all about. Coach's kid who's done some really phenomenal things, including in big spots, like MVPs of bowl games. I think he was the Senior Bowl MVP. Somebody who seems to thrive on a big stage. And I have this write-up from, I think it was Draft Express, just real quick, if I can read it, about Garrett Nussmeier. It says that he'll need to play in a system that prioritizes quick game concepts, play action designs, and movement-based passing to minimize the hits he takes. West Coast or Kyle Shanahan-style offenses that emphasize rhythm throws and bootlegs would maximize his skill set while protecting his frame. And when I'm thinking about what they're going to be implementing, doesn't that sound like what's going to be happening with Sean Mannion?
Yeah,
it sounds like a tailor-made fit.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, even if they weren't changing offensive schemes, and even if Jaylen Herz wasn't at this crossroads, as you described it in your article from April 1st, they would be dumb to not draft a quarterback, because when you look at what you currently have behind Jaylen, you have Tanner McKee in the final year of his rookie contract. He probably wants an opportunity to compete somewhere else, so you're going to lose him after this year. And you have 75-year-old Andy Dalton. So why would you not draft a quarterback simply as a backup that can grow behind Jaylen Herz? Because we have seen, more than any other franchise probably has seen in NFL history, how important the backup quarterback is. They won their first Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. So I think they would be dumb to not draft one. Now, I'm not saying draft one in the 1st or 2nd round like they did with Carson Wentz, where they took Hertz in the 2nd round. But in the 4th, 5th, 6th round, wherever it is, I think you have to draft a QB.
Yeah, I mean, if you draft a quarterback in the 4th round, they're going to make the roster. And so maybe you get to training camp and you realize that Andy Dalton maybe doesn't have it. But you have to prepare for all circumstances. And the Eagles, as I mentioned, really value the quarterback position. So it wouldn't be much of a surprise if they do look to explore that in the 4th or 5th round.
And if you're committing to the system, which it seems they're full on, like part of the reason Jeff Stoutland, the revered Jeff Stoutland is not here because they kept committed to this system. So they're all in there. Don't you want to make sure that you have like some quarterback options that you think are going to be a really good fit for this scheme? So I think sooner or later you're going to have to. Now maybe Jaylen Herz nails it. Maybe he knocks it out of the park. They tailor it so there's a nice blend of what he likes and what they do, and it looks dynamic. That's a possibility, but you also have to prepare for the possibility that maybe it doesn't work with this kind of experiment that you're having between QB and system. And so I do think it makes sense. Tanner McKee, I know they have a lot of love for him in the building, but he is in his last year, and so you have to make a decision there of like, well, how do we handle that one? Like, you can't have a franchise quarterback and then pay Tanner McKee like significant money. So is now the time to trade him? And if so, who's going to be that third piece of the equation? And so there are some arrows pointing to the fact that they could walk away with the quarterback in this draft.
Now, if they do in fact draft a quarterback this weekend, do you then think that immediately means they trade Tanner McKee, or would they try to keep? You can't. I guess you could keep a guy on the practice squad, but not a 4th round draft pick. You're probably going to have him make the roster, as you said.
Yeah.
So, and if you already are committed to Andy Dalton, would you then turn around and try to trade Tanner McKee when this draft is all said and done?
Feels like that's what the next domino would be. And again, the Eagles are really good at setting themselves out where their hand is not forced. If they don't come out with a QB, they don't have to trade away McKee. And the way that Roseman put it in Arizona a couple weeks ago was like, I sleep really well at night knowing that Tanner McKee is on this roster, knowing that I have 3 good quarterbacks that I can roll with. He's like, that's how he does it. So maybe it works out and they draft a quarterback and then they're able to execute a trade for Tanner McKee, who drew interest last year. I'm sure has interest again this year. You get some more draft capital, and if it doesn't work out, then you can keep him for one more year and see how that goes.
Yeah, and there's also the injuries in the training camp that you could, there's no rush. There might be a team that is in short supply of a quarterback.
Never forget trading Sammy Sleeves for a 1st round draft pick to Minnesota. We all remember that one. All right, here's what we got coming up. We will continue to discuss the NFL draft, but coming up next, we have We Hear You Part 2, the best voice memos of the day. Before the end of the show, not only are we going to pick the winners of all the giveaways we got, we're going to give you our final predictions for who we think will come off the board tonight when the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. So keep it here. Still time to get over to the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson as Unfiltered continues on 97.5 The Fanatic. where we would like to throw the Phillies start of the season right into the bagster, have them pick it up. But we are live here broadcasting from the Jug Handle Inn over in Cinnaminson. A lot of energy in the bar. And my mans Dylan and Braden are here. And they just came over to me all flyered up, and Dylan said, yo, can you tell Silvana to hit the horn? So, Silvana, can you hit the horn for Dylan and Braden for me? There it is, as everybody's flyered up. But we're also getting you ready for the draft tonight, because the draft is less than 3 hours away. Philadelphia Eagles pick number 23. So we got our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, here. We got ESPN's Tim McManus here answering all your draft questions. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do We Hear You, the best voice messages of the day. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of Flyers in here, but hopefully some Eagles as well. And We Hear You, always brought to you by Rycor Heating and Cooling, your local experts for energy-efficient heat pumps, lower utility bills, and year-round comfort. Learn more at RycorHVAC.com or call 1-855-MY-RYCOR and start saving today. Rycor, we know how. Hit it, Silvana.
Now.
I want to know.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to tell you.
Are you listening to me?
We can hear you.
I have something to say. Please just keep it simple and brief.
Thank you.
Listen to me carefully. And that's all I have to say about that.
We hear you.
All right, first one up.
This is my Eagles wish list. If by some slim chance either Bain or Downs slip to 11, you jump Dallas and go for pick 11 with Miami. You trade 68, 23, and next year's second, because you'll get at least that back for Brown to get one of those two. If not, between picks 13 and 19, you trade either next year's second or 68 to get Vega Luane or Sadiq. I think all four of those players will make an immediate impact on the Eagles. Otherwise, you stay at 23, take the best available offensive lineman or edge rusher at 23. And I'm curious to know what DiCecco thinks about Gabe Akis and Deshaun Stribling for the Eagles, because I don't think they should take a wide receiver in the first round. This draft's loaded.
All right, a lot in there, guys. So let's go to Andrew DiCecco first. What'd you think of his plan to move up and jump Dallas? What do you like about that?
Well, it's really interesting. Dallas is picking twice in the first round. So they picked 12th and I believe 20th. But I look at their draft, so like almost the polar opposite of what the Eagles are going to do. They're going to draft defensive players and help Christian Parker out. So if you're looking at a Keldrick Falk, that would make some sense. But otherwise, I'm not so sure that it would be worth the investment.
Tim McManus, ESPN, what'd you think of his plan?
The thought of them moving up to draft a guard, I think, would have people in Philly a little bugged out.
Yeah.
But it's a very good prospect in Ione. Would you be on board with that?
Yes. I mean, I think he's one of the few players in this draft, Tim, that I look at and I see an all-pro player. I look at the Ravens, though, at 14, and that's awfully high. And they look like a team that would be a really good fit. Well, we'll see. If he starts to tumble down the board a little bit and he falls within striking distance, that's certainly one of the players that would be worth trading up for.
Yeah, this isn't Danny Watkins. This is a really good football player. But I just don't think it's going to be in the Eagles' range. I don't think they're going to move up like a big splash up. I think it'll be a smaller splash probably for a tackle.
And that player who's a guard, no possibility of him ever moving outside the tackle, just a straight guard in the NFL?
He's a straight guard.
Yeah, so I don't see them moving up for the guard position like that. All right, let's keep them rolling, Silvana.
Good afternoon, Silvana and gentlemen. I am so fired up for the draft tonight. I know that Howie's going to put on his magic hat or his cape or whatever he does, and he's going to move up in the draft and get a long-time starter. It's Howie season tonight, and I cannot wait. Let's go Eagles, go Sixers, go Phils, and let's go Flyers.
Hit the horn, Sil! A little delayed over there, Silvana. A little delayed. All right, so you heard him say...
Is she asleep?
Yeah, maybe. You heard him
I have
saying
to
that
fix
it's...
the entire log right now.
Oh, okay. You heard him saying it's Howie season. He's going to move up. But like you just mentioned, Tim, you're not expecting them to move way up the draft board. Maybe just a subtle move if a guy falls into their range. What do you think the highest that they would move up, and who would they move up for?
So I'm thinking probably the highest is probably like 17, 18, maybe somewhere in there. The name that keeps coming into my mind is Monroe Freeland, offensive tackle. Keep that Georgia pipeline going. And, this seems to be like what they need to come out of the draft with is a offensive tackle of the future that can learn under Lane Johnson, maybe come in a pinch. I think that's the direction that they end up going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at right around 17. The Detroit Lions are on the clock, and they have a lot of needs along the offensive line. Caden Proctor or Monroe Freeling would be right within that range. So I think that might be where you need to get to if you want to get either of those players.
Good stuff. All right, Sil, keep them rolling.
Hopefully, A.J. Brown can get on the same plane, train, or automobile out of here with them today. It'll be a great day. That's highly unlikely, though, because of the cap hit. But I don't want the Birds to draft the receiver in the first round. There's some good receivers in the second day, third day. Ted Hurst, Deshaun Stribling, Chris Bell. Draft one of them.
You agree with that assessment that they can get a good wide receiver later in this draft and not reach in the first round?
Well, later is, in round 2, you're still getting a starting caliber player. And Chris Bell, I've told you, Bill, I think he's probably my favorite receiver in this draft class. He kind of reminds me of A.J. Brown a little bit. And Ted Hurst, Ted Hurst is a smaller school guy, Georgia State, but you look at the speed and the explosiveness and his ability to go up there and get the football. That'd be a quarterback-friendly option. I mean, at 68, he'd be a really sound pick.
I'm really curious to see which of those receivers would fall to 53 or if you would have to move up. Like, I got some indications that Stribling, as an example, might not be there for them in the second round. So is it kind of a tweener spot for them? Do they have to, Howie being Howie, and make another move to go up to grab a wide receiver that they like?
It's a great point. Like a Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, for example, could be in the 45 to 48 range where you have to get a little aggressive if you want to.
Well, it reminds me of what they did a couple years ago after taking Quinyon in the first round. We heard Jeffrey Lurie, when they did that behind-the-scenes look, say, we went to bed thinking of ways to move up to get Cooper DeJean in the second round, and they made it happen. So you could certainly see him doing that on Friday night in the second round. All right, how many more we got, Silvana?
We got one more.
All right, let's hear it.
It's BP and Lex from Promotions. I mean, before we get into a little Flyers talk here, we're thirsting for Hurst on Saturday. Ted Hurst, get him in here. The guy's a stud. But Alexis and I, we were at the Flyers game last night. We were we're
so pumped up. We're fired up, baby.
This team is dominating. Give us the horn, Bill. We're going for the sweep. Get off the fence. We're all in. Let's go for a run, baby.
You know who that was, right?
That was Petrilli and Alexis from Promotions, but you heard him, Sil. He said, give us the horn, Bill. Who am I to deny him? Who am I to deny him?
Set a new record for horns. Love it.
Hey, hey, hey! Well, in fact, thanks, Silvana. Good stuff, as always. Yesterday, we played the horn so often that I felt bad because one of our avid listeners texted in and said they had a medical condition that whenever we played the horn, it would actually put them into a seizure. And I said, oh, man, like,
Lord.
I felt bad. I didn't want to do that, but we were trying to get people fired up. We had to get the energy going. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's the collective good of the people, but I feel terrible for that person.
Yes, hopefully they're still listening and we're not doing anything wrong. I don't know how to handle it.
I mean, you've only played it, 36 times today.
It hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah.
It has not.
Look, he's laughing.
No, I'm not laughing. I am not laughing. But if you still want to get flyered up, tomorrow, I got to tell you, we are doing a Flyers playoff pep rally at the station. We're doing it in the parking lot. WMMR is going to be there. We're going to be there. Preston and Steve from WMMR will be there. We're going to be set up right in the west parking lot area. And how about this? You can win Flyers playoff tickets for Game 4 on Saturday night. There's also going to be a Flyers shot on goal, gritty inflatables, a Flyers merch truck, giveaways, yard games. There's going to be appearances by The Fridge, Todd Fedoric, the Flyers Ice Team members, Mr. Hollywood, the DJ, and everybody's favorite mascot, Gritty, will be there. And you could meet members of the Flyers flagship radio stations, 97.5 The Fanatic, as well as 93.3 WMMR. So stop on out tomorrow. We're at 1 Bala Plaza in Bala Kinwood from 11 to 12:30 to hang out and win potentially for Game 4. That's pretty good stuff.
It's really good, man. I'm flyered up.
Are you flyered up, Tim? I know you're here to talk draft, but are you flyered up?
I actually am. Yeah, so I'll admit that the Flyers haven't been on in the McManus household a ton over the last decade. All right?
It's not a lot to root for.
It's been lean times. But it was pretty cool last night with the family gathered around the television and my daughter's standing up and yelling at the TV when that scrum is going on, and they're like, "Get off of him!" Right? Like just getting so into it, pumped up. So, that's what's been missing. I think a lot of fathers and mothers can relate to this. Is like you wanted to pass on, the Flyer playoff legacy. You want them to have those moments that you had when you were younger, but it's just been absent in Philly for so long. So to get that taste back and to see them kind of react the way that I used to react is very cool.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. It's been incredible, and it has been a great savior for this city, considering that the Philadelphia Phillies just dropped their 9th straight loss. So I'm really looking forward. Yeah, boo. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's show on Unfiltered, because I can't wait to hear what my normal co-host Ricky Bo is going to say about the 9th straight loss for the Philadelphia Phillies, dropping to 8-17. But let's talk about something good. The NFL draft coming up next. We will announce our winners of all the giveaways we got going on. We'll pick them out of the bucket, so make sure anyone who's here in the bar stays here. But we're also going to give you our final predictions. You've heard Tim McManus of ESPN. You've heard Andrew DiCecco, our Birds insider. You know how knowledgeable they are. They're going to give you their predictions for tonight and their wish list for tonight, all coming up right after this as we continue the broadcast live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. right, coming down the home stretch here on Unfiltered, live from the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson. A big thank you to everybody who came out. It's been quite the event. Great turnout here. As we get you ready for the NFL draft, we're also getting flyered up. We're not even getting flyered up. We're staying flyered up. The city has been ignited behind the Philadelphia Flyers and their 3-0 start against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But we got the NFL draft tonight. We got ESPN's Tim McManus here with us, our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco. So I want them to give us their final predictions for what they think's going to happen tonight when the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock. But then I'm also going to ask you what your wish list would be, if maybe it's different than what you think will happen. But before we do that, we got a bunch of giveaways for everybody in attendance. We're doing 3 different things. We got a Super Bowl 59 football that is beautiful. It's one of only 5,000. We're going to pick the winner for that now. All right, we're going to do the winner for the Super Bowl 59 football now. I see my promotions guys got it. This is for the football, all right? So here we go. The winner of the Super Bowl 59 commemorative football, one of only 5,000. Mark Szymanski from Delran, New Jersey. Mark Szymanski, are you here? Mark Szymanski is our winner of the football. See if you can find him. Did he leave? Get excited! All right, we'll see if Mark is here. We'll pick the other 2 prizes, the Sanheim signed stick and the Konechny signed puck shortly. All right, well, let's go to Tim McManus of ESPN here. Timmy, tonight when they come up to the podium and Roger Goodell says, with the 23rd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select, what name will we hear?
Actually, they've already been on the clock. Sorry, Roger.
Because they traded up.
They traded up for Georgia offensive tackle Monroe Freeling.
Monroe Freeling, another Georgia Bulldog. All right, so that is Tim McManus's prediction for tonight. Let's go to our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco. With the 23rd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select?
I think they trade up for Alabama offensive tackle Caden Proctor, but if they stand pat at 23, I'm going to say Max Ihanachor, Arizona State offensive lineman.
All right. So anticlimactic, I think they're getting Proctor as well from Alabama. But all 3 of us think offensive line, right? I mean, that's where it seems the most common sense pick would be. Lane Johnson, this has to be his last year, right? We don't even know if he's going to be able to play 17 games because he wasn't able to last year. I think the common sense pick is, they go O-line.
Yeah, and the Eagles like to look for special traits in all of their players, but of course in offensive linemen, so you want the ones that have the really high upside, and the players that we've mentioned, I think all fall into that category, as well as they can move. And that's something that's going to be really important in this sort of wide zone scheme that they're going to be implementing under new offensive coordinator Sean Mannion. So you need to plan for the future. You need to get the right type of guys. You got to make sure that the offensive front is stabilized, and this pick would help do it.
All right, so before I get your wish list, though, like a player you would love to see them take, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not. Our winner of the football was not here. The rules were you had to remain on premises. We got another winner here for the Super Bowl 59 commemorative football. Our winner, Michael Vila from Alexandria, Virginia. Michael Vila from Alexandria, Virginia. Is he in the house? All right, he's going to go looking. All right, so while he's looking, man, we might have to, maybe I win the football if it's all said and done. I'll take it home, put it on my shelf. All right, so Tim, you made your prediction, but if it was you, if you were Howie Roseman, who would you take tonight? Who is your wish list for the Eagles?
Wish list would be Kenyon Sadiq.
Oh, I'm right there
tight
with
end
you, man.
Out of Oregon. Just because I want to see it.
Yes.
You know, I mean, offensive line, you realize, like, meat and potatoes, it's got to be done. But when you're talking about, like, a little bit more of a sexy pick, like one where you can see the production a little bit more outwardly, like, what would Sadiq look like in this offense?
I am right there with you. I was saying it earlier before you got here. That would be my top choice because I would love to see them go 12 personnel with Dallas Goedert and Kenyon Sadiq on the field at the same time, along with Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley. Like, that scares you, especially if they're going to trade A.J. Brown, which we all think they are. That adds a weapon now to your passing attack. And what an upgrade it would be from Grant Calcaterra. Nothing against Grant Calcaterra, but he's had his limitations, especially as a blocker, but even in the passing game, man, I'd love Kenyon Sadiq.
I'm going Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver at Indiana.
I like that.
And I think he has upside that reminds me a little of Jaden Reed with the Green Bay Packers, and that you could get him the ball in space. He's going to be lethal after the catch, and he attacks the catch point. You can line him inside or outside. It would be a fun little weapon for Sean Mannion and Jaylen Herz to work with.
Good stuff. That is good stuff. I'm excited. I'm getting really excited for the draft. All right, before we check our final Twitter poll results to see if the masses are excited, another person not here for the football. So we go to the third person. Mary Del Rossi from Mount Laurel, New Jersey has won the football. Mary Del Rossi. All right, and while we're going, we got to go with the Travis Konechny signed puck. The Travis Konechny signed puck goes to Joe Semensky from Ben Salem, PA.
Isn't that the same last name of the guy who was the first one?
All right, I'm just going to keep picking names, man. And then we got Kevin Brooks. Kevin Brooks. All right, it sounds like Kevin Brooks is in the house. Kevin Brooks gets the Travis Konechny signed puck. Travis Konechny signed puck. All right, let's see if people are as excited as we are for the NFL draft tonight, Silvana. Twitter poll, been standing strong as always for 4 hours, thanks to Dr. Avi Donapel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. Tell me people have come around, Silvana. The lack of excitement's getting me worried. What do we got?
Are you excited for the NFL draft, yes or no? 56% said no, 44% said yes.
All right, so 56% of people not excited for the draft. If you heard that scream, Kevin Brooks is excited because he just won the signed Travis Konechny puck.
We did our
the
job.
football.
Oh, down next to my Super Bowl ticket on the wall in my man.
All right, so he got the football then.
Right on, man. Right on.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Congratulations.
So we still have to give away the Konechny puck. All right, Konechny. Travis Konechny signed puck to Danny Horse from Haddon Heights.
Danny Horse.
And Travis Sanheim goes to Melissa Inacone.
Get excited.
All right, they're all fired up.
Are you kidding me?
All right, as we come down the home stretch here, though, Tim and Andrew, any final thoughts? We've talked a lot about the first round, but I'm not going to have an opportunity to talk to either one of you. Well, I'll talk to Andrew tomorrow a little bit. But what do you think happens the rest of the draft? Second and third round tomorrow night. What do you think? They got 2 third-round picks. Do you think they actually pick all 3 times in the second and third round, or do you see them using those picks as ammunition?
Well, one thing I'll put out there is while Kenyon Sadiq would be sort of the dream scenario we just came up with, I think maybe more realistic if that doesn't happen is Oscar Delp. He's the tight end out of Georgia, and there is a thought out there that Roseman and company like him. He didn't have a ton of production at Georgia. They thought that more was going to happen there, but he was in a bit of a loaded offense and has a lot of speed. And has really good hands and would be somebody who can line up in multiple positions for the team. So maybe look out for a little Oscar Delp in day 2.
That's a good one. Yeah, I look at day 2, and I think that's a great spot to add some wide receivers, either at 54 or 68. But I look at tight end, and the tight end that I'm talking about is Eli Stowers, perhaps at 54. Went to Vanderbilt, was a converted quarterback, still relatively new to the position, doesn't block all that well, but one of those weapons that he can move around formations and let his natural receiving prowess take over.
All right, good stuff. But just because Unfiltered is about to end does not mean that our draft coverage on 97.5 The Fanatic is anywhere near close to ending, because we got you covered all night long for the NFL draft, and you will be hearing check-ins from Andrew DiCecco and Tim McManus over the next few days, certainly tonight. I think I'm actually checking in tonight with Brendan Gunn after the Eagles make their selection as well. Nice. So a lot more draft coverage, and then of course tomorrow all day long we'll be reacting to the draft picks, we'll be reacting to the Phillies losing their 9th straight, and we'll be getting you ready for Game 3, Sixers-Celtics on Friday night, and Game 4 on Saturday, where the Philadelphia Flyers look for the sweep of the Pittsburgh Penguins. A big thank you to ESPN's Tim McManus for hanging out with us for 2 hours. Tim, great stuff as always, man.
Hey, dude, always a pleasure. Good being back at the Jug Handle Inn, man. It's been since the Tony Bruno days.
Oh, the Jug Handle Inn is the best. Hopefully we'll be here a lot more. And a big thank you We know him, we love him. Our Birds insider, Andrew DiCecco, did the whole show with me today. Great stuff as always, AD.
Yeah, pleasure, man. No, I heard so much about these wings, I might have to grab some before I get out of here.
Don't make the mistake of not getting them. And a big thank you to everybody who came out to the Jug Handle Inn over here in Cinnaminson. Before we get out of here, how about a little Let's Go Flyers chant? Let's get it going. Love it. Absolutely love it. But with the NFL draft tonight, we'd be remiss if we didn't do an Eagles chant too. So how about a little Eagles chant? E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! All right, there it is. The energy is always high here at the Jug Handle Inn in Cinnaminson. Make your way over here. Even though we're getting out of here, trust me, you won't regret it with the food and the drinks and the people in this place. So big thank you to everybody who put this production on. Thank you to all of you who listened, weighed in on the text board, sent your voice memos. We'll be back at it tomorrow, but keep it here for NFL draft coverage continuing on 97.5 The Fanatic. Talk to you tomorrow.